What's up, everyone? It's the Interview Queen Alicia Toot here, and be sure to watch True Heel Heat.
Yo, what up? You know what it is. It's your boy AJ Francis reporting to you live from New York City, the birthplace of hip-hop. And I'm telling you that I'm only tuned in with True Heel Heat Wrestling. Holla at me.
Hello everyone, it's the hardcore legend Mick Foley wishing a nice day to everyone there, right there at True Heel Heat. Yeah!
What's going on, everybody? This is your former AEW World Heavyweight Champion. Once a champion, always a champion. Swerve Strickland. Whose house? Swerve's house. You're watching True Heel Heat podcast.
Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your True Heel Phenom, SP3. We are live on the True Heel Heat YouTube, Facebook, and Romeo's Twitter for AEW World End 2024 review, our final pay-per-view review of 2024. And the world has come to an end because Kenny Omega is back in All Elite Wrestling. And to discuss last night's show, I am joined by my esteemed colleagues. First up, we got my co-host over on the True Heel Heat flagship podcast, the True Draw himself. Josh, how are you feeling today?
A lot better than yesterday. That's for sure. But nah, I mean, the show was great. Look forward to talking about a lot. Yeah.
Indeed. And we also got with us a very special guest for an AEW pay-per-view review. You usually see this familiar face on our NJPW content, whether it be a preview, a review of a show, a tournament. He is the MC of the past, present, and future of New Japan Pro Wrestling here on the True Heel Heat YouTube channel. It's your boy, J-News.
Man. I got to say this. I got to go to sleep early yesterday. You know what I'm talking
11:30, an AEW pay-per-view ended at 11:30.
Oh, man. That was a good bit. Thank you, Tony Khan.
Yeah. So the card was how many matches? And it was 3.5 hours?
Yep.
8 matches.
8 matches, 3.5 hours. I mean, better than 5 matches, I'll tell you that.
And everybody got good time too. I'll tell you that. So,
Everybody for the most part got over like 10, 11 minutes. So that's all you kind of need sometimes. But yes, we're here to discuss the final pay-per-view of 2024 that we're going to be reviewing here on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, AEW World End 2024. We appreciate y'all if you're joining us live. Appreciate y'all if you're watching us on demand. Remember to show your appreciation back. The simplest way possible is by dropping the thumbs up on the video. You can also share the video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you're new to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. And of course, sound off in the live chat. We love to interact with all of you guys. Hear your thoughts on AEW World End. We're going to give our opinions, our thoughts on last night's show, but it isn't the thoughts, the opinion on last night's show. We want to hear from all of you. So sound off in the live chat with that. If you want to have your comment highlighted on screen, you want to show your support to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, you can do so with a super chat donation. Any dollar amount matters. It goes back to contributors that you see on screen with us here, and we always appreciate the support. We got one of our members and moderators in the chat, Vala B, joining us today, saying what it is, True Hill Heat. Good to see you, Vala B. He says, Kenny, by God, Omega is back. We also got I Make Beats, who says, hello, THH folks. Good show last night. Mercedes Stat 2 was another banger. Also, Ospreay, Okada, this face emoji a bunch of times. Call me Mr. Banda, saying true heel. Torch emoji, torch emoji, torch emoji. We also got Vala B, who says, match of the night for me was Mercedes versus Statlander 2. Bigger and better version. So we're already getting match of the night results over here. We'll sound off. We'll let you know our match of the night at the end of the review. But we always like to start off these pay-per-view reviews with getting an overall thought, a phrase, or a word to give your overall thoughts on last night's show. We'll start with you, J-News.
Oh man. All overall, I would say that the show last night was great. It was great. I only have one gripe, and we'll talk about it when we talk about it. But at the end of the day, I think everybody had decent to very good to great matches. Storylines went where they were supposed to go, I believe. We started some new things. So looking forward to 2020 AEW in that regard. And for those people who want to talk trash about Kazuchika Okada, go fly a kite. So that's all I got to say about that.
Josh, what about you?
You better than me, J-News, because I would have just said they could go fuck themselves. But anyway, I think the show was satisfying. I'll say satisfying. They needed AEW needs to end on a great note, and I felt like the last month they've done so. Like they needed to leave, like a good impression at least going to 2025. And I feel like the last few weeks they've done that, which I was hoping for. And last night was no different. Caps off a line of great pay-per-views they've done this year, right? Because I think the pay-per-views have been like their best part of the business. Not only that, but it's delivering. So, I mean, that's always a plus when it comes to that.
Yeah, I would say my phrase would be great pay-per-view, wrong order. I think that's my only issue. I think I would give this pay-per-view probably a whole full point extra than what I'm gonna give it at the end of the review if they would have just made one change to this card. I thought the pacing of the card was good and stuff until the end. Spoiler alert on that. But we got in the chat with us, we got Power Driver Finisher who says great pay-per-view except the main event. We also got I Make Beats who says 2 Kenny returns in a few short weeks still hit the same. And we also got Vala B who says Ricochet segment was, well, I enjoyed it, but if someone felt like it was a burial, I would understand. I don't think it's a burial at all.
Not even close to a burial. It goes
But there was tonal issues there. Because I'm sorry, Swerve Strickland is not the babyface who should be doing a John Cena segment.
Yeah. I mean, that was about it, but I don't a burial. I don't see what was the burial. They threw toilet paper at him because they threw it at him last weekend. So
right,
exactly.
I think everything goes in line with what's been happening with Ricochet on TV, especially with all the players that have been involved with everything, right? So I think this is going to further the whole, is Ricochet eventually going to join the Hurt Syndicate type deal? It still leads into Bobby versus Swerve and all that jazz. So the players are where they're supposed to be. To what SP3 was saying about the tone of it, I didn't mind it, to be quite honest.
I didn't mind it either. I don't think that Swerve is the character who should be doing that. It came off corny, and Swerve is your coolest character.
The part where he did say Happy New Year. I don't know how loud.
Yeah.
When I spoke.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
It was corny. It was a John C. It was basic. If you put this segment in 2009, it's Swerve telling Ricochet he's poo.
Right, but I think I don't know if any of us are missing it or whatever the case is. It's supposed to be corny and dorky because of where Ricochet's heading, right? That's the way I feel, at least. I think they did that purposely, is what I'm saying. So that's my take.
Yeah,
you're telling me cool Swerve Strickland character who broke into someone's house, who had his childhood home burned down earlier this year, went through the trouble of going to a Costco's, getting 100 toilet papers with Prince Nana, then laughing backstage for the first 2 matches while they watch Ricochet and being like, I hope he loses because then we didn't waste all this money on this TV. And then when he wins, they're like, oh yeah, let's go. We can go out there and we can say happy birthday, we happy new year, we can have all the fans throw the TV. That just seems corny. That's not Swerve.
But it is Ricochet as well. It's per the character.
Yeah, that's what I said. I think we're saying the same thing. Is that yes, that's Ricochet's character. That's not Swerve's character. So if anyone else does this, it's fine. My issue is a Swerve.
I get what you're saying, but Ricochet doesn't have enough tenure in AEW for freaking Swerve to do anything of like, I don't know. There's no deep struggle between the two of them as of yet on AEW TV.
I think I see both of your points, right? I think SP3 is saying like, basically what he did is beneath Swerve.
Sure.
What you're saying is like, well, it's Ricochet, so he's doing it to Ricochet, exactly. So it makes sense. Sense. I see both sides. I see both sides of the spectrum. That's how I feel about it. I'm like, I see both sides. I see why it's not happening.
I don't think it's a burial, and I don't think that the segment did not work. No, I don't. I think that it worked for what it was, but what it was is beneath Swerve. That's what it was. We got Project Finisher who says they're playing the Ricochet angle pretty well, in my opinion. Risky, and I like it. Yes, I think they're playing Ricochet's character. Honestly, Ricochet's character work was the best part of his matchup on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Gotta love Okada running the ropes like an Olympian and then smacking his head during the match.
Spot of the night. So especially because it came after the match. It came after. That's what made it even better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh man, it was so great. We got Frantic Royalty says, "What's up, guys?" in chat. AEW World End last night was way better than last year. I mean, that's like saying Triple H is a much better booker than Vince McMahon. When the bar is at the center of the earth, it's not. You don't have to go that far to jump. World's End last year was one of AEW's worst shows ever, worst pay-per-views ever.
It's true. Because even last night, I said, remember after the second match, I was like, "Yo, this shit is already way better than last year."
Yeah, it was because like we got the opener is like you could argue is a 5-star match, and there was no 5-star match on last year's show. There was great matches, Kingston and Moxley in the finals, and Christian and Edge having probably their best AEW match. But other than that, those were the exception to the rule. because I don't know if y'all remember it correctly, but last year's World's End had Swerve Strickland, Swerve Strickland, who when he was like his hot heel run and he was coming off the heels of beating Hangman Adam Page in a Texas
I know you're
Death Match.
getting to.
And then he spent 12 minutes to beat Dustin Rhodes after he already crushed his ankle with a cinder block, and it took him 12 minutes to beat him. That happened last year. Yeah.
I recall.
That's one of the worst AEW pay-per-view matches of all time.
Well,
And then they followed that up with something similarly booked with Jay White and Daddy Ass on Dynamite this year. So
you got to learn from your mistakes, man. Got to learn from your mistakes. It's only up from here, brother. It's only up from here.
It can only be up from here. Fucking Dustin Rhodes doing fucking Canadian destroyers with a busted ankle. They got
I think
I'll never forget that. I'll never.
So basically, yeah. So like from what I know or from what I remember, it was that like basically like the match that happened that was actually supposed to be the match with Keith Lee, right? Like that was the match that they were supposed to have, right? So basically, they followed what they were supposed to do. But I do see SP3's point about Dustin, like Dustin Rhodes. I mean, I was like, I don't think he should be having 12-minute matches where he just basically
he got injured before the match. Like,
he broke his ankle.
I'm okay with Dustin having a 12-minute match, even with the top guy. But
I was saying 12 minutes. No, I'm saying 12 minutes as in he fucking got injured and then he has a 12-minute match.
Just didn't make any sense at all. So yeah, this was much better than World's End last year. We got Call Me Mr. Bonda, who says, I did say yesterday on the flagship that the C2 final should have been the main event, but I had a feeling that the World's End pay-per-view is AEW's heels gets away with it one last time show. And it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because how would everybody would have been much more positive than what I saw on social media if the show ends with the stare down with Okada and Omega.
Yeah, man. I mean, at the end of the day, but that was like I said, there was my lone problem. The semi-main should have been main, and the main should have been the semi-main. Outside of that, it was just the positioning of both matches and the circumstances and the situations. I would have been fine. You know what I'm saying? Because I think from an AEW standpoint, you want to end off with the guy that basically still represents the company. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't even had his peak run on AEW as of yet. And it's one of those things where people are still kind of on the fence about the whole John Moxley Death Rider situation and all that jazz. And you have so many moving parts with the people involved in the four-way. It's like, all right, leave that shit for semi-main at the end of the day. Adam Copeland coming back is always, that's great. It's hype. Them setting up a six-way match for Dynamite. That's cool. But you're talking about Okada and Omega, something that is so storied, that has all this depth to it, and you leave that for semi-main. I was heavily disappointed in the positioning. So I gotta agree with you there, SP3.
I would have put the main event in the middle of the show. I feel like you got to spread out those returns.
I mean, they've been prisoners of their own hype at times, because you remember when they did the Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson debut.
Yeah, that still is the benchmark. You still haven't been able to recapture that, so stop trying.
That's what they're trying to get back, the feeling, man. They're trying to get back the feeling, right? That's always been the thing. But yeah, man, I think that's where we're at with the way that it happened and the way that it broke down yesterday. They could have done better with the main event. The main event had its moments, but for me, one, it was too short, and secondarily, it shouldn't have been the main event. So that's
the double whammy there. But let's get into the show last night, which took place from Orlando, Florida. What did you guys think about the crowd last night in Orlando, Josh?
I thought the crowd was great. They got hot every time, when it needed to get hot, especially when Okada and Ospreay was coming up and, they were in the ring, they got crazy. So I think they got crazy when it needed to get crazy. Like, they were really good when it came to things like that, at least.
Yeah, I agree there. What about you, J-News? What did you think about the crowd last night?
I thought the crowd, much like what Josh was saying, I thought the crowd was hot. I thought they did a very good job. I think they almost sold out because Tony said capacity crowd during the scrum. He didn't necessarily say sellout. I know they were like 700 or something, according to the ticket.
They were like close to 7,000.
Yeah.
7,000 in attendance. The building holds about 10,000 for basketball, 9,000 for show concerts. But I think that, most wrestling fans, smart wrestling fans by now know that that's not what it is for wrestling with like production and stuff. So probably with the production, it probably could have held like 8,000. So the fact that he did 7,000, that's perfect.
Yeah, because the day before on WrestleTix, I saw that they were only short like about 700 or some odd tickets from being sellout or whatever. Yeah. So I'm sure they made up some of that difference on the day of. So now the crowd was hot. I thought individually, be it the circumstances, WWE was across town in Orlando the same night. For them to get the kind of crowd that they got was definitely good business, man. So.
Yeah, it was a big night. You had 15,000 people between the two shows that were in Orlando.
Yeah.
So good job by WWE and AEW last night with selling tickets. We got Vala B who says, wish they were hotter for Stat and Mercedes. They got hot, but not Ospreay, Okada hot, and it deserved to be. And I think it would have been hotter for that matchup if you have Copeland return. If you get a return in the middle of the show, it gets people up and they're like, oh, and then you put the graphic Mercedes and Statlander are next after the Copeland return. They're getting
hey, I love Mercedes and Statlander, but I'm like, they're not getting. You compare that to Ospreay and Okada. I'm sorry. Like,
I think Josh has a point, but
he's like, there's levels to this, folks.
There's levels to it, right? There's levels to it because the Takeshita versus Will Hobbs match, dude. During the middle of the match, that crowd died. Well, the way the mics were set up, like it was quiet, and I was like, whoa.
The crowd wasn't much into that at the beginning, and then they weren't into it at the middle, and then. I said it. I think I said it in our True Hill Heat chat. I was like, the best part about that matchup was them doing shit they're too big to do and somehow pulling it off, and that got the crowd into it. So, like, I'll give both guys credit because they got the crowd into it by that.
Yeah.
We got Dro Davion who says Omega versus Okada is going to be fantastic. Indeed. But yes, let's get into the action on the show. We'll go very quickly through the 0 hour. If you haven't already, drop the thumbs up on the video, share with your friend, and send a super chat donation if you want to sound off in the live chat, have your thoughts be read out on screen. But you had on the 0 hour, the opener, that plucky damn rookie, Toni Storm, pulling out another victory out of nowhere. Layla Gray, the much more experienced and tenured veteran, kind of slipped on a banana peel, and Storm was able to catch her with an inside cradle. She acted shocked and celebrated up the ramp. Later on 0 hour, Deonna Purrazzo introduced herself once again to Toni Storm and said, and Toni was like, no, we just met the other day. And she's like, yeah, I know. Isn't that annoying when someone comes up to you knowing that they know you and they're trying to act like their first time they know each other? And then she challenges Toni to a matchup for Collision for the first time ever on the first simulcast edition of Collision next Saturday. Toni says that she's been looking forward to this. She's wanted this match for forever and thanked her for the opportunity. She walks away, and it was made official later in the show. Toni Storm, the rookie, goes one-on-one with the virtuosa, Deonna Purrazzo. J-News, any thoughts on the plucky rookie, Toni Storm, picking up a victory here in her matchup with Deonna coming up on Collision?
I think that, this is going to continue to further the storyline with the plucky rookie and her being able to go through the ranks of the AEW women's division in order to get eventually get a shot at some sort of a championship. She's young, and we're not necessarily sure how good she can be. Her last 2 matches, she's won via roll-up. We don't necessarily know what kind of finisher she has, so she's got to work on that per se. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds for the young Toni Storm. As per the match on the 0 Hour, though, shouts to Layla Gray. The young lady has been definitely improving. I have shit on it quite a bit, but I will turn my thoughts around. The newfound New Japan Academy is doing some good things, and Layla Gray is proof of that, I would say. So shouts to Layla Gray for her improvement over the last couple of months, and good match that she had with Toni Storm on the 0 Hour. So
yeah, she got a good reaction when she was twerking in Hammerstein.
Hammerstein, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Good stuff for that. Josh, what did you think about Toni Storm pulling out the win here and her match with Deonna coming up next Saturday?
It was good. Like J-News said, like I'm like what I'm seeing from this candidate for Rookie of the Year next year. So she's been really good. I want to see more.
I think she has a bright future. I think she's had a bright future ahead of her, and she's showing the improvements in her game already. Yeah. But after the Toni Storm versus Layla Gray matchup, we did get some panel discussion about the Continental Classic semifinals and finals. During this panel discussion, Mark Briscoe was fucking hilarious. It was like he did not go out there scripted at all. He was talking off the top of his head. He was stammering, stuttering throughout this shit, but he was great because he's the most believable and genuine wrestler in the world today, and I love Mark Briscoe for it. Mark starts talking a whole bunch of shit, starts saying that for 2025, I'm smiling some gold. I mean, since I got to win, get over Danny Garcia in the C2, maybe I deserve a title shot too. I like you, Danny. I respect you. I like what you've been doing, but I think I need to get that gold. Garcia said he respects that and he deserves gold, but just not the TNT championship. He says that he caught him off guard, but you know what? He'll give him his title shot, and that was also made official for next Saturday's AEW Collision first simulcast on Max. It will be Daniel Garcia defending the TNT championship against Mark Briscoe. I'm sorry, like Mark Briscoe, we need Mark Briscoe on all the pre-show panels because if he's gonna go in there not scripted, I was laughing uproariously. Like but he was great because he was really given like real expertise and like notes and advice for the competitors. But everything that he delivered, he said it stammering and stammering and stuttering. It was great. He's awesome. Mark Briscoe's the best. I want him to be all the champions in the world. But what do you think about Danny Garcia and Briscoe next week on Collision, Josh?
I mean, it's gonna be a fun matchup. Like they had them, they had that match in the Continental Classic, which was a fun matchup and also surprising. The win was, everyone was like, "Oh shit, Mark actually won," because he was on the same pace as last year, just losing, and then he picked up his first win, and that's one of the things I did like about the tournament too, that they made it kind of more exciting that way.
Yeah.
But besides that, I think it's gonna be a fun matchup. I don't see him winning, but it's gonna be a fun matchup.
Yeah, their first match was great. I really enjoyed their match in the C2, so I expect this one to be just as good. Any thoughts from you, J-News?
I think that AEW is taking a page out of the New Japan book, saying because Danny lost multiple matches in the C2, so he's got multiple competitors for the TNT Championship coming soon. We've seen it for those of us who watch New Japan Pro Wrestling and understand the tournament matches. Sometimes the champions lose matches, and whatever matches they lose, they end up facing those particular competitors later down the road in subsequent events in order to give them challengers for whatever championships they are holding. So Daniel lost to Chicken, obviously, so he's got that match coming. And I forgot who else Danny lost to, but I'm sure that
Benjamin. Huh? No, he didn't lose to Shelton Benjamin.
No, he didn't.
He lost to Kyle Fletcher.
Oh, he lost to Fletch, huh? That's interesting. All right. So we might see that. I'm all part of the Kyle Fletcher agenda at the end of the day. And since he did not get put into the AEW Championship agenda.
This dude was
might as well have him earn another championship another way. So I can see that happening.
Josh, if you missed the World End preview, this dude J-News over here was calling for Kyle Fletcher to challenge for the AEW World Championship at Grand Slam next year.
Absolutely, man. It's in Australia. Absolutely. Jesus.
Damn. That's like, you know that reminds me of. You remember that episode of SpongeBob where Barnacle Boy wanted like the Krabby Patty, and towards the end of the episode he finally gets it, like a big size Krabby Patty. He's like, "Oh no, I don't know if I'm gonna finish it." That's how I feel about that. Like, damn, you're gonna go after the world title right now? Kid?
Can't even win the Continental Classic. And you want world title. Seems legit. But our next 0 hour matchup saw Jeff Jarrett picking up the win over QT Marshall. This matchup was another hilarious one because, oh my God, these two guys just did nothing but struts, nothing but taunts. You had the Froggo strut, you had QT doing diamond cutter signs. Dudes are doing nothing but taunts. It was like 98% taunts. Some interference from Aaron Solo. Jay Lethal came back out and battled him to the back. Jarrett kicks out of an inside cradle, backslide, and then he plants Marshall with the stroke to get the 1-2-3. QT Marshall, he's gotten in really good shape and he's gotten better in the ring. He's moving much faster than the last time I saw him. And then post-match, we get backstage, we get an interview with Double J, Jeff Jarrett, and he talks about getting the win on the show. Jay Lethal was happy for him. In the background, though, we see Jarrett having a conversation with Sanjay Dutt. Lethal says that he's going to get Karen on the phone to celebrate, but then Jarrett gets on the mic and says on Fight for the Fallen this Wednesday, he will make an announcement about his career. He says every year around this time, he likes to reflect on what's to come for 2025, and they will walk off questioning him to end the segment. But we will get the announcement about Jeff Jarrett's future on Fight for the Fallen, the mother of all simulcasts, coming up this Wednesday on Max and TBS. But do you guys think we're going to get the announcement of the Jeff Jarrett retirement tour? J-News?
More than likely. He'll have his final run in 2025, and we'll see as to how far it goes. But I think that's the announcement, if we're being fair. As for the match itself, I felt like it was 1980s wrestling all over again. If I may be so bold to say, it was a trip back in the Wayback Machine, and I was like, man, this stuff got old real fast. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but they did the damn thing, and they put on a entertaining match. So I got to give them credit there. Still not the biggest fan of QT Marshall. But the Last Outlaw still doing the damn thing, even at his age currently. So hopefully we get one last run out of the Last Outlaw, and he'll ride off into the sunset.
I'm gonna miss the bree-woos. Bree-woo, bree-woo, bree-woo. Josh, what about you? Do you think we're gonna get the final run for Jeff Jarrett?
I think so. I think I think that's what it is, but at the same time, this dude has been wrestling forever, so sometimes you just never know. But I don't know, in a weird way, I've actually gotten more appreciation for Jeff Jarrett. Just seeing the amount of work that he's put in, and then getting to know him and getting to know his where he's at when it comes to the wrestling business, because we always kind of had this at least with me, I always had like this wrong impression of him, of when he was a wrestling promoter with certain things and always putting himself over. But then when I got to know him, got to see what's his thought process was, I'm like, I kind of get it. And then when he got to AEW, I felt like there was a greater appreciation for him because of what he means to the business. So I mean, it's good to see that. I'm glad that I don't see him in a negative light as much anymore. And if he's retiring, hopefully they do something good for him.
Yes, I hope they treat him and honor him with the respect that he's deserved. He's a legend in this business for sure. I really feel like though people were not into this whole thing for like the first year. It really was until the babyface turn this year. I feel like he was finally able to kind of redeem his reputation this year with the whole run up until the Owen Hart Cup and then his work in the Owen Hart Cup and the subsequent feud with Hangman Adam Page, that he finally got the fans behind him again. Yeah. So I'm happy that Jeff was able to do that before he supposedly calls it a career.
Yeah, and honestly, for me too, a lot of people might not know, like if they watch the Dark Side of the Ring, that whole thing about Bash at the Beach, that kind of actually made me appreciate him even more because of like what he said and how he felt. Like somebody who actually, like he gives a shit about the business, and what he said and wound up happening. You kind of see why he's somebody that actually loves the business.
Yeah, for sure. We got Alex who says, broke 600 guitars and never drew a dime. Just kidding. I've appreciated what he's done a lot more, especially now. Yes, indeed. Next up, the final match on our 0 hour pre-show was the Murder Machines, Brian Cage, Lance Archer with Don Callis, teaming up with Lio Rush and Action Andretti to verse the Outrunners, Turbo Floyd, Truth Magnum, and Top Flight, Darius and Dante Martin with Layla Gray. Darius got a fast start in this one. We got the baby faces running wild for a bit. Loved Outrunners saying Top Flight, you son of a bitch, before doing the bicep elbow drop. But in the end, we had a little bit of miscommunication between the heels as Archer and Cage hit the choke bomb on Dante, but that was broken up. Archer went to make a pin attempt, but Lio Rush flew in after making a blind tag and hit a final hour frog splash for the 1-2-3. Lio Rush, Action Andretti, and the Murder Machines picking up the victory here. Andretti and Rush picking up momentum ahead of their AEW World Tag Team title match against Private Party. Private Party walked down on the stage. They faced off with Rush and Andretti, who are the top contenders, and their match will go down next Saturday, AEW Collision from Charlotte, North Carolina, the first mother of simulcasts on Max and TNT. Man, when was the last time the AEW World Tag Team Champions were not featured on the main card of an AEW pay-per-view? Like, I know there's some pay-per-views where the AEW World Tag Team titles was not defended this year. Forbidden Door, Double or Nothing. But even on those shows, you still had the Young Bucks there. Like, it seems like they did this whole story with Private Party, and then they said, okay, our work is done. We don't have to care anymore. And it's right back to where we were with the tag team division, not feeling important on AEW. Josh, any thoughts on this matchup? Any thoughts on the treatment of Private Party since becoming tag team champs?
The matchup was fine. Obviously they're pushing this whole thing with Lio Rush and Action Andretti. As far as the whole thing with Private Party, I mean, I kind of agree. I don't know what's the direction when it comes to that, especially when they're not being featured in in their pay-per-views. But it's also, I think it's an overall tag team problem that they haven't really addressed or fixed.
Yeah, they're just like, I guess they think it's going to fix itself, and it's not. Just letting you know, it's not. J-News, what did you think about the match and the post-match with Private Party coming up?
I didn't think much of the match, to be quite honest. I'm at the point with Lance Archer and Brian Cage where I'm like, I just don't care at this point because they've attempted to do so many different things with them and nothing has worked, that they're trying to make this work, and it probably could have worked at the peak of the Meet-Em, but they didn't even do that. So I'm going to let that slide where it's at the end of the day. The tag team division is The tag team division is lacking because the tag teams themselves can't get themselves over. It has nothing to do with the writing. It has everything to do with the talent. The Young Bucks and FTR are probably the only tag teams that can get that are over, and they and the Outrunners.
But they are presented well and get TV time. I can't blame the talent. It's all
at the end of the day, the talent has a lot more to do with what they can get over on TV than the allotted time that they get.
But Private Party got over it. We saw the moment at Friday Night Dynamite, and then they just took them off of TV.
Look, man, at the end of look, for all intents and purposes, I always put it on the talent, because I've always believed in the phrase or the saying that you have to maximize your minutes, and not everyone maximizes their minutes, right? So you're right, they got taken off TV, but even when they got put back on TV, I don't think they've maximized their minutes either.
What? They have not been put back on TV. They have not been on Dynamite since they won the titles, pretty much. They've not gotten any promo time. They've not had a significant match since October 30th when they won the tag team titles. So that's fine if you think that, but we can't say, oh, they didn't maximize their minutes when they went back on TV. No, they have not been on TV since they won the damn titles.
All right, man. I mean, it could be. Look, at the end of the day, I would say it's probably a combination of both things. At the end of the middle is usually the truth. You know what I'm saying? So that's really where we're at right now. The middle is usually the truth. So it's but to really like lay into it, like, it's disappointing what's happened to the tag team division since its inception. So it's like I would like it to be at a fever pitch and stuff like that. They need to restore it in some way, some fashion. How you do it, I don't necessarily know, but right now, it's not Private Party's fault as to where it's at. It's just more or less of like an amalgamation of where it's gone in the last couple of years, I would say. So something needs to change. So hopefully it does.
Agreed there. We got Private Party, Power Drive Finisher, excuse me, who says the proof is that Outrunners and MXM are the two most over tags, in my opinion. I do think that Outrunners are still more over than their push intends to, but I feel like we have already missed the peak of the Outrunners being over. Yeah.
And we've seen that crime happen in countless different wrestling organizations. At this point, you know, and I love Mansoor and Mace. Those two guys are funny as hell, and they work very well in the ring as well. But yeah, like to your point, bro, they've missed the boat, right? They've missed the boat both on the Outrunners and now with MXM Collection and stuff like that. Like I don't know what to do per se with the tag team division. Sometimes I even forget who the champions are, and that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing. So
even when the Bucks were not defending the titles, I still remembered it was the Bucks as champions. We got Frantic Rail. This says it's the booking of the tag division. Yeah, the booking of the tag division and the booking of the women's division have not been good in the latter half of 2024. But what has been good with the booking is the Continental Classic. So that's why I was ecstatic when I heard the music of Will Ospreay to kick off the main card for last night's pay-per-view, because it meant that we were getting the rematch from AEW Full Gear between Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, this time in the Continental Classic semifinals. Kyle Fletcher finished first place in the Blue League with 12 points, 4-1 record, while Will Ospreay finished the Gold League in second place with 9 points, a 3-2 record. They started off this one high speed, firing off wild series of counters with each other that I don't think most wrestlers would even attempt. It really felt like they were starting off the match like in third gear. And then even more when we started getting more strikes and things started getting going even more. Both started trading hard chops. We get a throat chop hit for Fletcher, only for Ospreay to duck a strike and then send him outside. Fletcher sidesteps a dive, but Ospreay landed on the apron. He does a perfect somersault plancha. Fletcher caught a Hurricane Rana and planted Ospreay with a powerbomb on the edge of the ring frame before lawn darting Ospreay into the barricade. Fletcher, I love Fletcher because you're seeing someone who is getting poise, timing, and how to work your character into a match. You're seeing him maturate before your eyes, because his whole thing with him going on the barricade to about to play to the fans and get all the heat, he's turning into an absolute superstar. But before our eyes is what I'm trying to say. Just the one moment with him taking the fan sign that said Ospreay's better and ripping it, and then the fan had a Ospreay still better side. That fan deserves an MVP credit. Honorable mention for MVP to that fan. But he did all of that so Ospreay can do the blade job. And boy, oh boy, did Ospreay do a blade job. He bled himself a gusher. We start getting Fletcher with Kawada kicks to Ospreay's head. His white boots with red blood looking all spread across it. Fletcher wipes the blood off of his kick pads and licks it, which gets an appropriate "you sick fuck" chant. Ospreay tries to fight back, but Fletcher lawn darts him right into the corner for a 2 count. Ospreay is bleeding buckets. At one point, the camera zooms in on him, and you can see the blood dripping from his nose. Fletcher was taking his time, but too long, so Ospreay is able to explode up with a lariat. He starts to build momentum. Ospreay hits a big boot and then a standing sky twister for a 2 count. Stun Dog Millionaire, it connects, but Ospreay signals for the Os Cutter, but Fletcher catches him and hits a half and half suplex. Fletcher delayed too long, so when he runs at Ospreay, Ospreay's able to catch him with the Spanish Fly for a 2. Kawada kicks for Ospreay's receipt to Fletcher this time as he dares Fletcher to get up and fight him. Both trade these loud, echoing chops across the arena. Fletcher tries for a thrust kick, which Ospreay catches. He gets a beautiful looking hook kick. Both fly out of powerbomb attempts until Ospreay's able to hit a beautiful looking Os Cutter to complete a fantastic sequence of moves. Fletcher counters a hidden blade into a lariat of his own as he went for the finish. Ospreay manages to hit a gnarly looking poison Rana before Fletcher collapsed. He threw a desperation hidden blade into another double down. Both start trading some brutal headbutts until Fletcher flew for a headbutt, only to be kicked in midair with a super kick. Fletcher tried for a schoolboy and cheating using multiple ways. He tried to use the various ways he's won in the tournament so far. The roll up with his hand on the ropes, the push in, the kick, the Aluva kick in the corner, and then the brain buster. Both things don't work. He does a handful of tights. He gets caught red-handed. Fletcher shoves referee Paul Turner, who shoved him right back into an Ospreay hidden blade for a 2. Fletcher pulled Turner into Ospreay, allowing him to hit another haluva kick and a brainbuster for another close 2 count. Elevated Liger Bomb connects, but Ospreay is able to kick out at 2. Ospreay ate another corner kick to the back of the head before Fletcher caught an Ospreay falling backwards. He follows up. He's talking his shit. He goes for a proper one before trying for the brainbuster, only for Ospreay to snap out of it. He pops out a snap Hurricane Rana, followed by a Styles Clash, and he gets the 1, 2, 3. So for all the fans that were saying, oh, Will Ospreay uses AJ Styles' move and he never gets a win with it, they said, fuck all of y'all. We're going to do it in the opening match. It's going to catch everybody by surprise. It ends this match right at its peak. 17 minutes of some of the most spectacular, hard-hitting action that you have seen. The pacing of this matchup, like I said, they started at 3rd gear and they went up to like 4th and 5th gear. Instead of starting at 1st gear and going up to 3rd gear, they started at 3rd gear. The drama in this matchup with the blood from Ospreay really gripped you in, really made this just a compelling match to watch unfold. And somehow, some way, Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher either met or even to some people topped what they did at Full Gear. And despite Fletcher taking the loss, he comes out of this Continental Classic looking like a world beater and looking like a main event star for the future for All Elite Wrestling. This was absolutely sensational. I would put it up there with MJF and Darby Allin as one of the greatest pay-per-view openers in AEW history. 5 stars. J-News, what did you think about Ospreay versus Fletcher? 3.
And it was a very bloody match, to say the least. I when I saw the backstage segment that Will did with Renee at post match, and you clearly saw the blade job that Will did, and I said to myself, "What the fuck, dude? Like, what is that?" I was like, "That it was crazy, bro. 3 blades." I was like, "Oh, this is why you were gushing all over the goddamn ring. 3 cuts in his freaking forehead, bro." I was like, "Oh my god, why?" But anyways, it made for obviously the drama in the match, like you said, SP3. Yeah, these two have great chemistry, man. This is it's their 3rd match this year already, right? And each one has been banger after banger after banger,
and they've all been different.
They've all been different.
The first match is the 2 baby faces, so it's mainly just how well they know each other. The second match is Fletcher kind of trying to show that he's different from Ospreay, and that Ospreay doesn't know what he's going to do, and Ospreay putting a complete star-making job for Fletcher. And then this one is just a balls to the wall, old school, like babyface heel battle that starts at like 3rd gear and never lets up for the whole 17 minutes. Like, it's 3 completely different matches.
Yeah, man, and they do great work together. So obviously this is not going to be the last time we see Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher at any point. But to your point, man, I think Kyle Fletcher the last couple of months has definitely been coming into his own. The C2 basically being his playground, just to show as to how much maturity he's showing for the company, that he can be a top guy in the future and stuff like that. The Kyle Fletcher agenda is well with me. So we know where I want him to be by February. But at the end of the day, I think that I think Dave Meltzer even said that this is possibly the greatest opening match he's ever seen on a wrestling show. And that's a lot. That's a lot to say for Dave. Dave's been watching wrestling for 50 years at this point. So
I agree with him. I saw the quote and I agree with him. I was like, the only one that I could say is probably on par or better than this is Bret Hart versus Owen Hart from WrestleMania 10.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, man. It's man, wrestling in 2024 is not a bad thing, folks. You know what I'm saying? That this is when the whole enjoy what you like type deal comes into play. Like, yeah, there's no other place you can get this kind of a match outside of AEW. So that's why people watch, and I gotta give the boys credit, man. Just Will, next time, watch out, man. Out there almost goddamn slicing open an artery, bro. Like, what the hell's going on, man?
And he had another match to do later that night. Josh, what did you think about this opener?
It was a great opener. I was glad in general they started off with the C2 group finals. I was happy with that. I thought they started with the right one first, for obvious reasons. When it comes to Will, I don't know, that fucking that blade job, man. I was like, fuck. Like, I was like, damn, bro, you're gonna have another match. Before he won. I mean, I knew he was gonna win, but I was like, god damn, like, do you think this is a great idea to do this at this moment? That's probably the only thing that I would probably say, like, he probably shouldn't have done because of the match later, but I think I know why they did it. Obviously it was still to make him look kind of like better because, but I mean, overall, these guys work great together. They've proven that already. But the fact that it just keeps getting him better and better, it kind of goes to show you where Kyle Fletcher is at. A lot of people were pissed that, he beat Okada, during the tournament, right? I never seen so many like fucking uproar off of that. Like, goddamn. But yeah, AEW wants to build stars. People complain they want to build stars, but then when they do it, it's a problem, right? And I think Fletcher, he's shown that. He's shown that this is like one of the guys that they have you know, if they really want to go that far with him. You know, overall, I mean, overall, I love the match. I just the right person won. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they delivered big time, and man, it's just Kyle Fletcher. I didn't expect this whole thing to kind of happen as fast as it has. Like we kind of heard it in the summer that they were high on Kyle Fletcher, but I didn't expect them to get him to this level and him to improve at this rate, because I think the way he is now, he's way better than he was even like 3 months ago. Like he's just improving on his look, finding his whole heel character and the cockiness that he shows in the ring and the poise to kind of get the crowd's attention, get as much heat as possible into his matches that he's shown in his tournament match, and especially with this one. He is a guy that I'd say, like, yeah, that's a future AEW World Champion right there. Just not in February next year, J-News. Just want to make that.
You'd be surprised, man. You'd be surprised, man.
Nope. I will not be surprised. I will be displeased. But yeah. Well, Big Man Doug says, I like that Ospreay won with the Styles Clash. Me too, because it made me believe that he could win the second match because he didn't use one of his finishers to get the win.
Yeah, but also the whole thing about the Styles Clash is so dumb because one, Will has been using it, but then two, he uses it more than the actual person that they fucking people bitch about, like, you know, fucking uses it, right? When AJ was wrestling, he was rarely using the Styles Clash to the point that it wasn't really even his finisher anymore. So I'm like, I don't know. That was just the internet being in the internet, trying to find something to complain about. I thought it was just pretty fucking stupid.
I have to say this. I have to say this. For all the complaints that the internet always has, and it always comes at like the last minute. People who have to do anything with what's actually going on always gets disregarded. Like AJ Styles went on to Twitter and he said he doesn't care. At the end of the day, he thinks it's an homage to him when anyone uses it anyways. So what's the problem? At the end of the day, is what AJ.
And it is a homage because everybody in their mama, if you heard even one interview with Will Ospreay, I feel like every interview he does, he mentions how much AJ Styles was an inspiration to him.
Yeah, man, AJ Styles is.
And they use the name. They use the name, the Styles Clash. They call it that name, you know. And that move existed before AJ Styles was even using it. You know, it's an unfortunate thing. Just nonsense that I guess people just need to have lives. Like people use each other's moves all the time. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, it's like a comedian, right? When like, oh, this guy stole my jokes, right? It's just like there's people who do certain things that might be similar. At this point, who cares? But it's not his finisher. It's not like he stole it. Like, you know, it's just part of his moveset. Who cares?
It's one of his signature moves. It's fine. But speaking of which, what J-News mentioned before, we did get an interview with Will Ospreay backstage where he was asked about the win as the doctor was checking on him. He says that he's wrestled Okada about 10 times and lost 8 of them. So he asks the crowd to be behind him. He smacks himself in the head and says that he feels like he's been hit by a truck. But after he beats Okada, he's going to Disney World. In the immortal words of Tony Khan, let's fucking go, lad. It was a great promo. I love Will Ospreay. He turned into not only my favorite in-ring performer, but arguably one of my favorite promo guys.
I mean, he is the AEW babyface right now. You know what I'm saying? He is the rah-rah guy. So shouts to Will for doing that in such a short amount of time.
Facts.
I also like in his promos, he kind of uses a lot of like realism, because even in that promo, he was like pretending that he was fainting because of the blood.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, I hit myself in the head." But then we had the second match on the card, our second of 2 semifinals in the Continental Classic. It was Kazuchika Okada going one-on-one with Ricochet. Ricochet finished number 1 in the Gold League with 10 points on 3-1 record, while Kazuchika Okada finished with a 3-1 record, 10 points overall in the Blue League, finishing second place. The best spot of this whole entire match had to be Okada, who defeated, sits down Ricochet. He hilariously does a misdirect spot where he runs back and forth on one side of the ropes, runs back and forth on the other side of the ropes, and then stops, smacks Ricochet right in the back of the head. The crowd popped. That was one of the biggest pops early on in this show. Ricochet trapped Okada's leg and pulled him into the ropes, crotching him, allowing for a tope to be hit. Ricochet again was trash talking the crowd. Ricochet is just so good at being a heel. Like, he just gets so much heat. He knows when to taunt to them to get them back into the matchup. He was slowing the pace down, keeping Okada grounded. Okada started to no-sell a bit, so Ricochet did the wall walk, but ran right into a flapjack. We got at one point the crowd saying, na 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 na, na 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 na, hey, 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 you're bald. I'm sorry. This is probably going to be the best thing about Ricochet matches from me on, is how the crowd interacts and comes up with chants for Ricochet being bald or being Trevor or one is Samantha. Like, there's so many things that the crowd can play with to have that crowd interaction with this Ricochet character. Okada spikes Ricochet with a DDT for a 2 count, but Ricochet answers with a Lionsault and a running shooting star press. Ricochet went up top and rolled through on a 450, only for Okada to catch him and hit the air raid crash neck breaker. Top rope elbow drop, which legitimately just looked like Okada just dropped down with his elbow. He got no height. He did not jump. He just dropped down with the elbow. He does the Rainmaker middle finger pose, but Ricochet is able to spun out of the ripcord. He tries for a Benadryller, but Okada blocks. After a series of counters, Okada fires off a drop kick. He wanted a tombstone, but Ricochet countered into a scary looking vertical where he dropped him on the back of his neck. Hits a shooting star press for a 2. He loads up the spirit gun, but Okada ducks. They trade big shots until Okada hits another big drop kick. Ricochet goes for another spirit gun, but Okada ducks, hits the Emerald Flosion, and then a picture perfect Rainmaker 1, 2, 3, turning Ricochet inside out for the win. Okada moves on and advances to the AEW Continental Classic final. Okada goes to the back. As he goes to the back, a toilet paper flies into the ring to taunt Ricochet. Ricochet gets up on his feet when the music of Swerve Strickland hits. He comes out to the stage with a microphone. Strickland congratulates Ricochet for making it just as far as he did last year in the Continental Classic, but Ricochet said that he was going to win this tournament. Being a man of his word, Strickland said that if Ricochet blew it, he'd make him feel it big. All Ricochet has done since coming to AEW is run his mouth. Ricochet talks a lot of mess, so Strickland is here to clean up the mess. Prince Nana struts out with a wagon full of toilet paper. He starts tossing it to the crowd. Strickland says that they want to help Ricochet have a clean slate for the new year. So on the count of 3, we're gonna say Happy New Year, and they give all the fans the toilet paper. They say Happy New Year and throw the toilet paper on top of Ricochet. Strickland then throws the last piece of toilet paper and says Happy New Year, Trevor, to leave Ricochet covered in toilet paper and shivering in anger. He was furious at the end of this segment here. Really good match with Okada and Ricochet. I would give it 3.5 stars. The post-match, like I said, it works in a vacuum with the Ricochet character. I don't think Swerve needed to be the corny person to do this part of it. But I understand if y'all feel differently. Josh, what did you think about Ricochet versus Okada and the post-match here?
And the matchup was fun. It was good for what it was. I knew this was going to be a different direction. I know it was going to be more of like character play, more stuff like that. which they did lean into, which I was fine with. Like you said, like that spot where he ran through the rope and then smacked him. I thought that was great. Right? I think Okada's gotten like, I think that when it comes to Okada and in AEW, I think that's always like the miss thing when it comes to that. People, they want to see the Rainmaker. They want to see that. At the same time, I think this kind of does benefit him, building some kind of character, building some kind of stuff like that for him. And I loved it, right? At least in my end, I actually like it because it's one of those things where when they sign Ospreay, they sign him, somebody's not going to get the major push. So I mean, the way they've been using him, obviously you would like to see more of it, but at the same time, I don't hate it. But last night overall, I think it kind of showed like what he could do, what Okada could do, and this is why they signed him. So that that proved it for me. But overall, like I said, the match was fun, and the post thing, I didn't mind it too much. I thought it was funny. I didn't burial. I don't know why anybody would think it's a burial Ricochet. Well, they've been put. I mean, and it's not even like what it is. It's not even like a push for Ricochet. It's a character development situation with Ricochet. This is what he needed. He needs some kind of character. This was what he was always missing, and the fact that they're leaning into like this cringe, corny person that he is, I think it's great for him, and I think it's gonna get better.
J-News, what did you think about this one?
I thought the match was solid. I hope they revisit the match itself somewhere down the road, because I feel obviously we can get a much better match overall. But to Josh's point, this was more for character development reasons on both ends, really, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
The Ricochet stuff post match, like Josh, I thought it was funny. At the end of the day, the real question then becomes SP3. If not Swerve, then who? You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, someone important in the company had to humiliate Ricochet for it to matter, right? If you're talking story, I think. Being that the Hurt Syndicate is brand new, like them embarrassing him would have just been them kicking his ass, and that wouldn't necessarily gotten anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know they can kick people's ass, so what does it matter? So the humiliation part gives you an avenue for the arc of Ricochet's character. If he ends up hurting people, then we can look back at this moment and be like, oh, this is why. You know what I'm saying? So I think, like I said, I think it's funny, but it's also it could be a good launch point for him character-wise, Ricochet, that is. And then Okada, man, people have been shitting on Okada's run in AEW. And it's like sometimes folks miss the point. It's like he didn't come to AEW to be the Rainmaker. He's been the Rainmaker the last 12 years. He came over here to collect a paycheck and have good matches at the end of the day. And now he's just being funny on top of the fact of being, that he can be. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's I think what Okada's done has been fun on AEW TV. I don't think it's been bad at all. And we still get to see the greatness that he brings to the ring anytime he's in the ring. And it was a good shot for Ricochet to be in there with Okada this time around. Hopefully we revisit it later. And I can't wait to see what Ricochet versus Swerve brings to AEW TV. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I took out of the post-match stuff. But the match itself was solid at the end of the day. So
yeah, they did what they needed to do with the match for sure. But seeing a couple of people who have mixed reviews on the post-match here. We got Christopher Kidd who says, hey, SP3, your boys at Wrestle Talk irked me today when they didn't laugh at the toilet paper. I mean, I don't know if they were watching the collision and Dynamite from this past week. So if you're not watching, this past week in AEW television, this is something new completely for you for Ricochet, and it makes Swerve look even more lamer because he's coming out with toilet paper for him. Not realize if you don't realize what's been going on AEW television, and the fact that Swerve really initiated this when he called him a turd 3 weeks ago. So you got Big Man Dogs who says, I liked it, and I like seeing Swerve be funny against a wrestler he doesn't respect. We got Christopher Kidd who says Swerve calls him a turd. It's perfect. Big Man Dogs says, oh yeah, I listened to some of the Wrestle Talk pod, and Ollie hated the toilet paper. We also got Goodfellas who says, Ricochet looks like such a dork. I don't know if they can rehab Ricochet for my fandom. They're not trying to. That's the key there. They're not trying to. Good fella, they're not trying to. They're trying to make you not like Ricochet, which it seems like that's working.
Yeah, they're leaning
that's
into
the point.
him being a work. Yeah, they're leaning into that. It's a positive because like Josh said, like it's giving him something to do, and now he's starting to matter. Regardless of the fact that we're talking more about Ricochet now than we did 4 months ago when he was in WWE. That's the whole point. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Yeah. Just stay off of social media. Stop trying to go full Andrew Tate. Just don't do that, and you'll be good. But third match on the card, you got Mariah May defending the AEW Women's World Title against Thunder Rosa in a Tijuana street fight. Rosa hugged her father sitting at ringside while Mariah May taunted him with the AEW Women's World Championship. That led to Rosa diving off of the apron onto May to start the matchup. You get a sliding lariat back inside and a big senton, which he dropped to ass right on Mariah May's ribs. May swept the legs out and pounced, but missed a shotgun dropkick, allowing Rosa to hit an uppercut to the spine. Didn't get enough of a follow-up dropkick for a 2. Rosa threw weapons into the ring, but she took too long, opting for a different trash can than the one she initially pulled out. So Mariah was able to crawl up the ramp and eventually hit a DDT on Rosa. May had a bottle of tequila and took a swig and tried to miss Rosa, but it just came out just blopped out of her mouth. Looked like something else. She stumbled to her feet and tackled May through a big table that was standing up in the entranceway. McGinnis on commentary said May was just filling her opponent with spirit, in a great line by Nigel, who's always good for that. Rosa hesitated, allowing May to chuck a trash can at her, causing Rosa to tumble down the ramp. Back in the ring, Rosa pulls out a goddamn piñata she brought into the ring, and she starts dumping thumbtacks out of the piñata onto the mat. May was able to escape a Fire Thunder driver and eventually hits a Mayday right onto the tacks, only getting a 2 count. You can see the tacks sticking out of Rosa's back and her ass throughout the rest of this matchup. We get May, who mocks Rosa's father. She takes his hat off and throws it, then rips his cane away and starts making fun of him. She wraps her knee in barbed wire, but then rams her leg right into the steel steps when Rosa moves out the way. Rosa grabs the cane and starts tapping May with it. Doesn't even give the cane back to her father. Come on, Rosa, you're better than that. Despite being some pin attempts on the floor, Rosa threw May back inside and went for a cover for a near fall. Rosa wrapped the chain around May's neck and started choking her out, but May was able to grab some of the dirt that Rosa's father brought from the Tijuana graveyard, and she threw it in Rosa's eyes. She then follows up on the apron with a Storm Zero off the apron through a table at ringside. 1, 2, 3. Mariah May picks up the win to retain the AEW Women's World Championship. Good brawl here. I thought it was fun with the weapons that were used. The piñata spot was very nicely done. The finish looked great. I thought Rosa brought some fire. There have been a lot better women's street fights or women's plunder brawls in AEW history, but this was a fun one for its place on the card. So I give it 3.5 stars. Josh, what you thought about Mariah versus Rosa?
I thought the match was fine, like you said. We've seen like better when it comes to like these kind of matches with the women. Wasn't as bloody. It wasn't as like crazy in that aspect. Maybe that's what probably was missing. But they did some nice things. I liked the pinata spot. That was pretty crazy. She opened it, and then I was like, "What the fuck?" So they're creative in that aspect, and even though I really didn't have an indication of Rosa winning, I thought the match was fine.
J-News, what about you?
I thought the match was fine. I thought that, man, they could have done other stuff. I'm not sure if the match was cut short or whatever have you, because the finish felt so rushed and whatnot. Like Mariah putting Thunder through the table with the pile driver. I was like, that's it. I was like, okay. There was no build towards that, should I say, at the end of the day. So if that felt rushed within itself. But like, with SP3 saying that Thunder brought the plunder, I appreciated that. They tried to work off of the storyline stuff with Papa Rosa and everything else in between. So they dabbled and dabbled into that. But I felt like we could have gotten more out of this match, but we didn't. And I'm not sure if that was more because of time or whoever might have been the producer for this match. But for all intents and purposes, it was okay. But like you said, there's been better women's street fights in AEW outside of this. So this is after this match ended, this was like the second or third time I thought to myself, where the hell does Mariah May go from here? Where does she go?
It's obvious. It's obvious where she's going.
I understand that, but there's no road that leads there right now. So like for me,
there is. It's plucky underdog babyface Tony Storm getting wins to get to Australia.
But what does Mariah May do in the meantime? Is that's where I'm at. I understand where we're going.
Cut promos, and say how she's beaten every single challenger and contender that no one's left. So she has completed her prophecy of killing women's wrestling. That's her whole gimmick.
Yeah.
She don't need a challenger of the month, because that's what too much of this whole title reign has felt like. It's challenger of the month, someone to keep her busy so she could wait for Tony Storm. She should. If you're gonna wait for Tony Storm, you don't do challenger of the month. You literally just have her wait for Tony Storm and say she's been doing this whole gimmick for months, that she's killed women's wrestling. There's no more challengers left. And then another challenger comes. She needs to feel like there's no challengers left. She needs someone completely new to face, thus opening the door for rookie Tony Storm to be that challenger.
I understand the destination, but now to what you're saying, it's like if all we're gonna have is Mariah May cutting promos on TV, they better be good. Because a lot of and I'm speaking for myself personally, sometimes her stuff falls on deaf ears. Her promo post-match yesterday, good. Her promo pre-match yesterday, good. A lot of the stuff beforehand, not so good. So it's if she's not going to wrestle, she's got to be captivating. If she's not, she loses the plot at the end of the day. That's where I'm at with it right now. She's probably my least favorite AEW Women's Champion, and that's saying something. That's saying something. You know what I'm saying?
Damn.
And she's got a lot of TV time.
That's wild to say.
She's got a lot of TV time, and for me, it's just it's more for the sake of, not because she can't have a good match. It's because a lot of the time there's stuff that she does that bores me, and that sucks because I know
she was definitely not as boring as Saraya being AEW.
Oh, okay, granted,
or Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose in year one. Nyla Rose got entertaining and started showing more of her personality after she lost the AEW Women's Champion. When she was AEW Women's Champion, it was boring, and it was one of the worst AEW Women's World Title matches on a pay-per-view with Chris Statlander back in 2020.
Yeah, that I mean, COVID being what it was, but at the end of the day, I felt they didn't do enough with Nyla. But to your point, she did get more entertaining after the fact. I've been not very enamored with Mariah's current title reign. And I don't know. Yet again, it's not her in ring. Sometimes her stuff on the mic hits. Sometimes it doesn't for me.
I think Alexander and the people in the chat are saying it better. It's been an underwhelming reign. There's no denying it's been an underwhelming reign. But I think you went too far by saying it's the worst AEW woman.
No. It's not the.
I thought of like five. I thought of like five that were much worse than this. Like I said, Big Man Dog said it best. It ain't that bad. It's underwhelming. It's disappointing, but it ain't that bad.
That's fair. But your short-term memory is way better than mine. I've been told you guys my brain has been fried since COVID. So I don't remember that far back.
He's like, it's the worst AEW Women's World Title reign. And then you ask him, how many World Title reigns you remember? And it's just been her and Tony Storm, right?
That's all I remember, bro. That's all I remember. That's all I got.
Bro, what? Bro, what?
That's all I remember.
I was like, Jesus. I was like, what? I was like, immediately. No, thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Immediately, I was like, no, it's not as bad as Saraya. Literally, Saraya was AEW's version of the Unholy Union winning the tag titles in WWE, where they literally did it because she was home.
Fair. Yet again, I'm never going to deny the facts of life at the end of the day. But another fact is, I am totally aware that my short-term memory is fried, and I don't remember a lot of shit that happened earlier in the year. So forgive me.
I love Big Man Dog's waiting when you said my short-term memory ain't shit, and he was like, "All right, let him cook." Hey, we got Big Man Dog says, I'm not as down on Mariah as I have seen. I just wanted to see her get more to work with. I'm right there with Big Man Dogs. I'm much higher on Mariah May's potential and what her potential would have been as AEW Women's World Champion if they didn't just decide to wait. That's what I think the problem has been, and why the women's division for the both major companies has suffered, is because we have major bookers whose jobs are to be heads of creative in Triple H and Tony Khan, who just decided to wait. Triple H decides to wait for Rhea Ripley to get healthy again. And he says, oh, we'll just make Liv Morgan a star, and then booked her to shit. And then started letting Nia Jax do shit that she was not good at. And then her year went to shit. So that's why the WWE Women's Division overall in 2024 was the weakest part of that company. And in AEW, January through August, we're talking about, oh my God, AEW Women's Division. They've turned it around. They're much better than WWE. And then after All In, Tony Khan just said, you know what? We're going to do this story with Tony, where Tony's going to go for a while, and we're just going to wait. And not only that, we're not only just going to wait, we're going to present the TBS champion as a higher champion than the AEW Women's World Champion.
That's the presentation, bro. That's literally to your point. That has been the presentation. I think one of the girls said it on TV, right? Either Mariah commented on it during a promo backstage or whatever the case is. I think one of the bits that she did with Renee. Which yet again, one of the things that she does well. It's just it just hasn't landed, man. Like everybody's saying, it's been underwhelming for me at the end of the day. I guess my question would then be, like, does that say something about the women's roster? Or is it just really the booking at the end of the day?
It's the booking.
Okay.
It's the booking, because I agree with what Alexander just said in the chat. What Mercedes is having for a title reign is what Mariah should have been having right now. Since Mercedes became the TBS champion, she won the TBS championship we'll just talk from the point she won the title. The point she wins the title, she faces Stephanie Vaquer at Forbidden Door. She faces the former biggest female star in the company, Britt Baker, at All In. She faces the former ace of the promotion for the women's division, Hikaru Shida, at All Out. Then she fused with Chris Statlander, and she's been feuding with Chris since then. In between, she had an Anna Jay feud that lasted like 3 weeks. Mariah May, on the other hand, since she became AEW Women's World Champion, they put her into a mini feud with Queen Aminata. Then she went into a feud kind of haphazardly put together with her and her and Yuka Sakazaki. had a mini feud as well. She did 2 back-to-back mini feuds with 2 women that aren't over for a woman you're trying to get over as the champion. Like, already you're off to a bad start. So they did 2 mini feuds with Aminata and Yuka Sakazaki. Then that went into the Willow match at Wrestle Dream. Then they did a 2-month storyline with Anna Jay that didn't get 1 pay-per-view match. And then it's been Thunder Rosa. No, it was Mina Shirakawa for a month. And then it's been Thunder Rosa for 2 weeks before a pay-per-view match. That's a street fight. So, like, what are we doing? You should have done Thunder Rosa at the beginning of the whole reign. You could have squeezed in a Britt Baker, try to get whatever's left out of Britt Baker's star power and put Mariah May over her as well. You should have had all your former champions lined up to put this woman over, because that was your best chance to get her over on the same level, and they just didn't do that. They put her against all these people that aren't over with the audience, and thus we are here with Mariah May.
Pretty much.
It's horribly booked. RP Jesus says, yeah, they aren't really booking women in the main title picture. Sheeta just gave up and became a YouTuber. That's outrageous, but sounds legit. Next up, our 4th match on the card, Adam Cole, baby, versus MJF for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. This was a very, very flat story heading into this matchup. The crowd, though, was very much into things. I think it's because these 2 characters have, long-time connections with the crowd, so it was easy for them to get into things when the bell rang. You had Mike Bennett and Matt Taven standing at ringside, quote-unquote, protecting the Dynamite Diamond Ring. The bell sounded, and MJF immediately took a powder out to the outside, but Cole was right after him, hitting a pump kick. Cole went to the Panama Sunrise, but again, MJF bailed, only to pull Cole face first into the steel steps. We got "He's our scumbag" chant. MJF yelled back at the crowd to shut the fuck up. He doesn't need their help. Cole is bleeding after being sent into the steel steps as MJF does push-ups in the ring before pouncing and biting at the head before hitting a power breaker onto the knee on Cole for a 2 count. MJF mocked going for the Panama Sunrise, but got super kicked out of midair for the reset. Cole fired up, hit a backstabber and a brainbuster onto the knee for a 2. Taven and Bennett were cheering on Cole, who went for a Panama Sunrise, but MJF sidestepped. Cole started limping on his bad ankle, so MJF started zoning in on the previous injured ankle. MJF started talking shit to Thunder Rosa's father, calling him Yosemite Sam. MJF opted to do the Froggo strut, which resulted in Cole pulling his legs in and posting MJF, busting him open in the process. Both men back into the ring. They started firing off punches and bunches to each other. Cole hits the Panama Sunrise. He follows up with the boom, but he has his knee pad up, so he only gets a 2. Cole goes for the boom with the knee pad down, but MJF crumbles. As Cole trash talks, MJF dove for a chop block to regain control. We get MJF, who's looking for the Dynamite Diamond Ring, so he goes to ringside. Taven and Bennett are standing guard, so MJF smacks his head into the ring steps and cries foul. The referee, Bryce Renberg, throws Taven and Bennett out, ejecting them from the ringside area. MJF then grabs the Dynamite Diamond Ring. He charges at Cole, who hits him with the super kick. He pulls the ring off of MJF and puts it on himself, but he goes to use it, and MJF hits a low blow. He follows up with the Heat Seeker. The referee finally turns around after Taven and Bennett are taken by security. MJF, 1, 2, 3. He gets the win. He retains the Dynamite Diamond Ring. He is very happy with himself post-match. MJF grabs a steel chair. He places it around the injured ankle of Adam Cole. He's about to Pillmanize it when Roderick Strong returns, and he comes out. He hits the ring. MJF bails. Kyle O'Reilly then appears behind MJF, and he sends him back into the ring where O'Reilly and Strong hit the high-low. We then have them help up Cole. O'Reilly hugs Cole, and then O'Reilly and Strong hold up MJF so Cole can hit him with the Dynamite Diamond Ring. None of the post-match got a lot of heat until they punched MJF with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, and then the crowd just start booing these motherfuckers. Cole Strong and O'Reilly start hugging. Taven and Bennett return to the ring, and Undisputed Kingdom is reunited. This did not go over well. The match itself was good, and it had a lot more crowd reaction than I thought it would. So I gave the match 3.5 stars, but the post-match with the Undisputed Kingdom reunion, you're not gonna make fetch a thing. You're not. Undisputed Kingdom is so 2017. It's just, it feels played out. It came off played out. I hope that everybody can move on from this afterwards, though. J-News, what did you think about Cole and MJF and the post-match?
They had to do what they had to do. It was booked, so they had to finish this story. They had to figure out the match in the ring. I thought the match actually was pretty solid, to be quite honest. And the post-match stuff, I don't necessarily know if they lean into the Undisputed Kingdom being heels in this case. I'm not sure if Max is going to be on TV for the next couple of months, if I'm being quite honest.
We never know. We never know with him
at this point. So depending as to wherever they are going to book the Undisputed Kingdom, we shall see. But the group is back together. They are whole now. We'll see as to where they take this, and hopefully it's something good. That's all I got, man. That's all I got.
We got Big Man Dawes that says this match had 2010 vibes. It's quite rare to see the crowd reject the intended heel babyface dynamic nowadays. Yeah, Max had to try so hard. That's why both guys beat in this matchup. When I really felt like, I was like, yeah, it's been a long feud, but did it really need blood after the opener? It didn't. I don't think it got the intended reaction that they did, but these guys tried so hard to get as much reaction as possible, and bleeding, I guess, was another part of that, but I don't think it needed the blood in this matchup. But Josh, what did you think about MJF and Cole?
The matchup was fine itself. It went better than I expected, because I know both guys could work. They've worked against each other before. It's just one of those things where, yeah, I think both guys just need to move on. They needed to wrap it up and just move on. Hopefully they did that last night. The post stuff, I mean, I didn't mind it. And it was kind of weird because when he ended up punching him, people were booing. But then when they started hugging, they started cheering. I'm just like, do these fans know what they want at this point? Like, that's why I thought it was a little weird. I was like, you just booed this man after he just used the ring. Like, you hit MJF, he used the ring to hit MJF. They booed, and then when they all hugged, you cheered. Okay. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen going forward. I just hope better things happen for both guys. Unfortunately, they got stuck in this vortex of a bad storyline that they were trying to salvage, and unfortunately, it went the way that it did.
I agree with Goodfella here, who says MJF should be the biggest star in the company, but his character needs to evolve. Enough low-hanging fruit jokes and be a smarter evil heel. For all the complaining that I know I had stuff about the act that I didn't enjoy, and I know that Jimmy was more of a bigger kind of detractor from it, but I really feel like MJF, the American champion, was much more entertaining than whatever MJF version we got now.
I agree.
I just feel like that was something new for him to do. This is just him going back to the old character that he had before, and I do agree he probably needs something to evolve with that. We got Alexander who says Dave Chappelle, wrap it up. We're just ready to move on from this feud. Yes.
Absolutely, man. Just to say one more thing, was it Frantic World that was talking about the evolution of his character? No, Goodfellow, right? Yeah, for whatever it is right now, right? It can change in the future. I feel like MJF only has one speed, and he only knows to do one thing. until he can show that he can evolve his character. We're going to continue to see the same thing over and over and over again. That's all I got to say about that.
I can also see that. Next up, fifth match on the card, Konosuke Takeshita defending the AEW International Championship against Powerhouse Hobbs. Don Callis was in his corner for this matchup. He's on commentary. We immediately get meat chants as both men start slugging it out right at the opening bell. Neither budge on initial shoulder blocks, but Hobbs launches at Takeshita to the floor with one. Hobbs told Callis to watch as he drove Takeshita repeatedly onto the apron with slams. Takeshita went to the eyes and got to the fireman's carry, but he dropped Hobbs on his surgically repaired knee on the apron, which really gained control for Takeshita. This is more of like the Takeshita style that we saw in the Ricochet match, where they're telling Takeshita, hey, man, we got Will Ospreay on this show, so we only need one of you guys to have these full speed ahead bangers that you're used to. We want you to have more of a heel style where you slow things down, you work a body part, and that's what he did here. And I think that it worked out better than it did with the Ricochet matchup, because I thought that Hobbs sold the knee very well. It helped when Hobbs wanted a superplex from the apron to the outside, but Takeshita reversed. He suplexed Hobbs back inside. Hobbs was able to run through a lariat attempt and hit a cross body block. He was able to fire up with a series of corner clotheslines. Hobbs manages a power slam for a 2 count, but he clutches the knee right on impact. Both men slowly up as Hobbs no-sells a whip attempt, but Takeshita counters a power slam into a bastard driver, which looked right impressive with the size of Hobbs. Again, they slowly rise. They start hitting standing lariats, but neither man would go down. Takeshita opts for a stalling German suplex, another impressive show of strength. Hobbs blocked the power drive knee and hits a wild, loud-looking forearm. Takeshita charges, but he goes right into a snap power slam by Hobbs, as both went for the home run shot, as Hobbs hitting first and turning Takeshita inside out with a big lariat for a 2 count. Takeshita floated over a spine buster and chopped out the leg. He hits a blue thunder bomb, but Hobbs kicks out at 1. Don Callis sold this to a T. He gets up from his seat immediately, jumps out of his seat, and he's like, what the? He sold the hell out of this shit. Then you get Hobbs. He's up. He hits a wild-looking lariat, turns Takeshita inside out, only gets a 2. He slowly goes up to the top rope. This is when the match got really good for me. Takeshita goes up for a superplex. These motherfuckers are so shaky and almost fall to the floor, but they both fall to the apron. They were safe. Hobbs clutches his bad knee, so he played this off perfectly, because I feel like this was not a planned spot, but Hobbs clutching the knee made it look like he wasn't able to stand on the ropes because of the injured knee. So if it was a mistake, they covered this to perfection. We get please be careful chants from the fans. They both go back up to the top rope. Takeshita finally hits the superplex. He hits a top rope senton. He wants a power drive knee, only for Hobbs to bust out the spine buster for a very close near fall. Straps are lowered by Hobbs. He's fighting through the pain. Takeshita goes to the apron. He climbs the ropes again, but Takeshita rakes the eyes. He wanted an avalanche lariat, but Hobbs reverses it into an avalanche power slam for another great spot. At this point, the crowd is going crazy with "This is awesome" chants. Hobbs took off his knee brace, but the delay allowed Takeshita to recover. He hits a wind-up world-class forearm, the power drive knee, then a front guillotine to try to make Hobbs pass out before he hits the raging fire. 1, 2, 3. Konosuke Takeshita retains the AEW International Championship in what I thought was a banger. I'm sorry. I enjoyed this match way too much, because I'm sorry. When a wrestling match can make me fear for the lives of the people involved, and it's not using thumbtacks or chairs or any type of weapons, I'm just fearing because these two large men are trying things they are way too large to do, and then after a struggle, they're able to pull it off. It brings a sense of realism that not a lot of wrestling matches have to me nowadays. So I enjoyed the hell out of this one. I give it 4 stars. Josh, what did you think about Takeshita versus Hobbs?
I thought the match was really good. Especially like the beginning, it kind of started off really good. People were chanting, right? It was meat, right?
Yes.
And they were like hitting each other, meat. Man, I was like, what the fuck? I didn't expect that, but it was bad funny. And then, I thought Hobbs did really well trying to sell the injury. I thought he was really good at that, right? The knee injury and stuff like that. He was really good when it comes to that. And there were spots, like you said, like I was kind of like, fuck, like I really hope these guys don't hurt each other, especially that the suplex, that spot, the superplex. But overall, I mean, I thought it was a good matchup for both guys. Konosuke, I think at this point we all know that he's one of the top performers, not only in the company but all around in the business. And they made it work. Especially that part when Hobbs kicked that and Don Callis got up, he took up the headset and everything. Yeah, it was good. I mean, I really enjoyed the match.
J-News, what did you think?
These two human beings have no business doing what they were trying to do in that ring yesterday. Absolutely none. And that is the story in a nutshell about the meat division in AEW, right? They're big hoss guys, but they do different shit. And that's what I can definitely appreciate about them. Look, man, I have admiration for Konosuke Takeshita. I think he's one of the best out there. Big Will Hobbs is a star, man. That young man, he needs other opportunities, and I'm sure that he will get them in the coming year of 2025. I'm interested to see as to what his evolution is going to be this year. This match puts him, which is what I wanted out of this match, and I talked about it in the preview. I said, if this match doesn't elevate Will Hobbs, they did Will Hobbs a disservice, right? And I felt like this match elevated Will Hobbs and his ability of what he can do in the ring, but also his ability to sell was shown throughout this match, and how he was able to get people just to care, for his well-being when they were on the top rope trying to do whatever they were trying to do. They were fast chatting, please be careful and please don't die. I was like, yes, exactly. But people cared. And I think that's part of, his genuineness as a human being and as a person, how he comes across as Big Will Hobbs. And yeah, man, I just want to see more from Hobbs and how the interactions are going to go with the other AEW talent. Takeshita's an international star for the time being, right? We're going to see Takeshita all over the place. So we'll see him at Wrestle Dynasty and Kingdom, right? Both, if I'm not mistaken.
Takeshita, yeah.
Yeah. So, he's going to do the damn thing, and he's going to continue to do it. He's going to continue to prove that he's one of the best. And we'll see who can take the international championship off of Takeshita in AEW. Right now, I don't see who. But yeah, so I think they've done a good job at elevating Takeshita as he's currently a champion as well. So good job with there on that for AEW. I think they get stuff done 70% of the time. You know what I'm saying? So,
Hey, that's a good percentage for some.
So it works out that way.
At this point, we got Renee Paquette. She was backstage with Kazuchika Okada, who said that Will Ospreay is like his younger brother, his younger brother's little brother. Ospreay is on another level, but he's not on my level, bitch. And walks off. Love the juxtaposition between the Ospreay interview and the Okada interview. Ospreay sweating, got blood drenched all over him. Okada barely didn't even break a sweat in this matchup. He's completely dry, well rested for tonight's Continental Classic.
That's textbook Okada.
Yeah, because they kept on bringing up his resting heart rate. And I was like, what is this gimmick on commentary? His resting heart rate. And I was like, okay, I get it.
Absolutely. Next up, we had the TBS Championship up for grabs. Mercedes Mone defending against Chris Statlander, the rematch from AEW Full Gear last month. Statlander showed the power game early in this one, but Monet used her speed to try to counter things. So the story of this matchup was Mercedes knew that it took a lot in her last matchup to beat Statlander, but she was still confident that she got the job done last month. She can get the job done here, but Statlander showed that she was ready for a lot of what Mercedes was going to bring and how much she learned from that first matchup. Unfortunately for Mercedes, Statlander was standing for the Hurricane Rata, the same Hurricane Rata she hit at Full Gear. Statlander cartwheels out of it. The ladies had a face-off as Monet pie-faced Statlander, and that was the first sign that you could see that Statlander gets Mercedes frustrated. That sent her to the floor. She hits a drop kick through the ropes to Statlander. Monet hit a running knee against the barricade, but tried a crossbody off of it, only to get caught. And Statlander walked up the ropes and body slammed her right onto the apron. But Mercedes learned from that and started to use kind of Statlander's way of doing things, eventually sliding out of a top rope move and hitting a power bomb on the apron. And then she really started focusing in on the back, the neck, and the legs of Statlander, trying to break down the larger opponent. Monet remained in control, hitting the running double knees in the corner for a 2. Statlander exploded out of the corner with a big lariat, but Monet floated over into a backstabber for another near fall. Another backstabber from Monet, who held on to the submission, but Statlander used her strength to power out of it. Statlander maintained wrist control and hit a series of clotheslines. A charging corner knee led to a chaos theory, which landed Mercedes right on the back of her neck for a near fall. Mercedes was able to escape an Oklahoma Stampede, but Statlander did connect with a spinning sit-out slam for a near fall. Monet placed her in the corner where she blocked a corner charge with a flashy tornado springing DDT for a 2. Loved commentary noting that Mercedes knew that Statlander would be ready for the tornado DDT. So that's why she kind of did a springboard off of the corner, off of the other ropes into the DDT. Nice adjustment. You see that Mercedes is trying new things, different moves in this matchup. She does 7 amigos instead of the regular 3. The crowd started getting bigger and bigger, popping bigger and bigger for every suplex. Monet goes to the top rope. She hits the frog splash, but Statlander kicks out. Both ladies start trading backslide counters until Statlander hits a picture-perfect package power driver. I think that's the first time I ever seen Mercedes get dropped on her head like that. Monet connects on a series of jawbreakers, but Statlander stayed on her feet, started the forearm exchange. Statlander looked for another rolling German suplex, but Monet spills through the ropes with Statlander holding on and both crashing hard. The apron curtain basically rips off of it. Monet was up and managed a moneymaker and had this match won by countout, but instead she overthought things. Like Statlander got her so flustered that she basically breaks the count at 9, then tries to get a count out again by basically trapping Statlander into the ring frame of the ring and trapping her boot there. She goes back into the ring. She stomps down on her leg. She then hits a Meteora off the apron onto Statlander before raining down punches. Statlander had to untie her boot to free herself. She catches Monet and hits an F5 on the apron. Back inside, she hits another F5 and only gets a 2 count. Statlander tried to climb the ropes, but had her legs swept out from under her. Mercedes hits one of the scariest looking sit-out tombstones I think I've seen in quite some time. Another move that Mercedes has never done before. She does that on the edge of the ring frame. Statlander looks like she's dead at this point. Mercedes is celebrating that she's going to get the count-out win. We get to the count of 8, 9. Mercedes puts her hands up. She's got the match won. Statlander slides in at 9.75. And just the difference in these two photos. Mercedes Moné is the best. She might be the greatest female wrestler when it comes to facial expressions. Because I said last month at their Full Gear review that her facial expressions were top notch here. But this right here is one of the greatest changes of facial expressions I think I've seen in a women's match ever. Oh my God. Mercedes locks on the statement maker after screaming at Statlander, "Why won't you die?" She locks in the statement maker. She transitions into a STF after working over the leg. The Statlander lunges for the rope break. She gets it. Monet is shrieking in frustration as she trash talk and charges. You can see that confidence was just a mask and that she knows that Statlander has her number and that Statlander can beat her. Statlander catches her with a big lariat. She wants Saturday Night Fever, but Monet escapes. Both starts trading pin attempts. We get Mercedes goes for an ankle lock, but Statlander is able to reverse that into a pin attempt. After various pin attempts, it's Mercedes who gets a seatbelt pin with the leg trap, the injured leg. 1, 2, 3. Mercedes Moné retains the TBS championship in what might have been the greatest women's title match in AEW history. Like, they had so high expectations after last month's Full Gear matchup, and they seemingly were able to outdo that. The only thing that I think held this match back was the weirdness of Mercedes breaking the count only to try to get a count out later. But if you explain it in the fact that Statlander got her so flustered, so frustrated that she started messing up her own game and then realized that count out was the only way that she could win and eventually just went for it anyway, then there's no kind of nitpicking of this match. It's one of the best women's matches in AEW history, one of the best women's matches of the year. I'm going to go one notch higher than their Full Gear matchup, only because of the count-out spot. The count-out spot is one of my favorite things I've seen this year because of Mercedes' facial expressions and just the vibes that we got here. Like, I have not felt these type of vibes with a Mercedes Moné opponent since Bayley. I think Bayley is the only person who could say she's a better dance partner for Mercedes than Chris Statlander. And I think that's the biggest compliment I could give Chris Statlander, who is an absolute star that they need to strap the rocket to in 2025. She should not just be a TBS champion. She should be the woman who dethrones Mercedes Moné after these 2 instant classics. But she needs to be a women's world champion in 2025. She is that damn good. But so is Mercedes Moné, and she has completely recovered her reputation from one of the worst matches of the year against Britt Baker at All In, and it's been remarkable to watch over the past month and a half. This was amazing. I give it 4 3/4 stars. Josh, what did you think about Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander 2?
It was a great matchup. Yeah, I thought it was better than the first matchup. And that's saying a lot because the first matchup was great. Especially they got enough time too. I think this match was what, 24 minutes?
24 minutes, 35 seconds, the longest AEW women's match of all time.
Yeah.
And the longest match on this show.
Yeah, that's insane. But yeah, I think it showed. I think it showed. They work well together. Usually with Mercedes, when she gets like you said, like she gets like a good dancing partner, that really helps a lot. And obviously these two, they've done enough already that it's like, all right, definitely want to see another one. And even the way that she won yesterday, right? It still makes Statlander look good because she didn't, right? She had to like get her like in the pin, So it wasn't even like It wasn't like, she won in dominant fashion. She barely beat her. So it still looked, it still does a lot of favors for Statlander going down the line. But, I mean, overall, yeah, it was a great matchup.
Mercedes right now is having like a Ric Flair heel, like Ric Flair late 80s heel title run, where Ric Flair late 80s doesn't have to do the bullshit we would see in the main event that Moxley has to do with the Death Riders gimmick, or like get brass knuckles or do a low blow or anything. She wins because she's more cunning and she has more tricks in her arsenal than everybody else. And that's how she's won these 2 matches against Chris Statlander. So Statlander has lost nothing and she's gained from these 2 losses. J-News, what did you think about Mercedes Statlander 2?
I thought that this was a terrific match between the ladies. I've been a fan of Chris Statlander for a while. One of my favorites to watch in ring, just because I feel like she has a unique look. She has a unique offensive move set. Fuck a CM Punk, sorry. Anyways, and she goes out there and she tries her best every freaking time. She never mails it in. And that is one thing I appreciate about Chris Statlander. Now, Mercedes, on the other hand, I would like to say that there is a visible improvement of the Mercedes Moné character to me in the last 3 months. This rehabilitation that has gone on ever since the doom that was that Britt Baker match is something to behold, right? I said it in the preview. I'll say it here again. It's taken 10 years for Mercedes Moné to grow on me. 10 years. I have never been a fan. I never understood the whys. Now I understand the why. Now I get it. Outside of Mercedes and Bayley at Brooklyn, I've never gotten the hype. And now that she's done it consistently, it's like, now I get it. Now I get it. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like I understand it. Her, the character stuff now coincides with the in-ring stuff. Like everybody else was saying, I thought that Mercedes, her facials were top notch with everything, because that's what TV wrestling is about at the end of the day, making sure that people believe what it is that you're doing in the ring. So top freaking praise for Mercedes on that. And to your point, SP3, man, like I've never seen, or at least from what I can recall, let me preface this by saying I cannot recall ever seeing a person lose 2 matches in a row and get more out of 2 losses than what I've seen with Chris Statlander, bro. Like this, it's insane, but well deserved in my estimation. So hopefully bigger and better things for Chris Stat in 2025. She did have a backstage promo post match where she has a very unique sense of humor. The first thing you see is her tying her shoe, the shoe that the in this video, the shoe she left in the freaking ring. And I'm there like, this girl. But then at the end of the day, she does go ahead and say that she knows she's good, but now it's time for her to be great. And I wonder what that's going to look like. So I have something to look forward to with Stat. I don't necessarily know from an AEW standpoint where Mercedes goes from here, who else they can pair with Mercedes per se, because I think Mercedes has done a good job of, whether people want to see it or not, I think she's done a good job of working with the younger girls on the roster and trying to build them up through matches. But there's only but so many young girls on the roster. So it's like, what's the next step for Mercedes in her role in AEW? Great for her and AEW and everyone involved to get them a longer match, because it proves that the women can do what the men can do at the end of the day. So props to her for that, because she's always about changing the narrative for women's wrestling. So she's definitely helped do that, man. So that's why I give her a lot of props and credit now, because I always thought it was, people were pandering to her, or like she wasn't really out to do what she would always talk about doing. And now it's like the proof is in the pudding, right? So it's like, all right, cool. Now I see it. Now I get it type deal. So I just wanted to say that. So we'll see, man. We'll see where it all goes.
Big Man Dawes says Camille Blood Feud is next for her. I hope not.
To be honest, if they really want to go the storyline route, that should be the way they're going to go. I don't necessarily know.
But I don't think Camille works as a babyface.
We don't know. We don't know.
I do know. I've seen her in NWA. She doesn't work as a babyface. But Antoine, I'm sorry, Antoine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but you're not going to sit up here after Mercedes had that match last night and tell me you honestly think she is still the fourth best horsewoman.
There's
after
no
Bailey had one great match this year, and then WWE forgot about her.
Yeah, man. That's not, at the end of the day, to quote the great Mary J. Blige, that's just hateration.
That's just cap. That's just cap and hateration. Agreed.
So, yeah, he even gave the match what three. And he says no higher than 4 stars. He's bugging.
Yeah,
he's bugging. So you already see somebody who's not like really being, he hates Mercedes obviously. So I'm like, I'm not taking that serious.
Nah, it's that's not Antoine. That's Dave Meltzer. Got Antoine as a burner account.
Oh shit!
Dave Meltzer probably gonna give this match 3 3/4 stars. Like, good match. One of the better women's matches. 3 3/4 stars.
Rough.
But it is time to talk about the real main event of this show, the AEW Continental Classic Final. Kazuchika Okada, the reigning champion, versus Will Ospreay. Jim Ross joins commentary for the final 2 matches of the evening. Ospreay comes out and he looks completely knackered. He's got his head heavily bandaged from the opener. Okada comes out easy and breezy, like he didn't even wrestle earlier in the show. Okada teased his signature clean rope break early on, but instead he popped Ospreay with the forearm. And then basically the first half of this matchup is Okada working over Ospreay and Ospreay having small glimpses of a comeback. Ospreay would answer with some hard chops. Ospreay quickens the pace and snaps off a Hurricane Rana, where he was met with he meets Okada on the outside with a slingshot dive. Ospreay tried to jump from the barricade, but Okada avoided it and hits a DDT right on the floor. He then puts Ospreay back into the ring, only to hit the draping DDT onto the floor once again. Ospreay slowly rolled back into the ring, where he ate a third DDT for a near fall. Okada started to toy with Ospreay, basically taunting his little brother before planting him with the neck breaker that caused Ospreay's bandage to come off. Okada starts wiping his armpits and his dick with the bandage. Ospreay then tried throwing some chops, so Okada dug at his forehead. He wanted another DDT, but Ospreay snapped off a suplex instead. Handspring corkscrew kick connects for Ospreay as the crowd were on their feet. Ospreay then connects with a Pip Cheerio for a 2 count. Ospreay charged, but Okada connected with a flapjack before placing Ospreay in the corner, hitting the elevated drop kick, and a knee wrench hit Ospreay's knee wrenched back as he fell off the top rope, which caused even more damage. Okada wants a tombstone on the floor, but Ospreay hits a hook kick and then hits an Os cutter off the barricade. Okada is able to get back into the ring at the count of 9, only for Ospreay to hit a springboard dropkick and then follow up with an Os cutter for a 2. Ospreay followed up with Kawada kicks, but he went for the Stormbreaker, only for Okada to counter into the air raid crash neckbreaker. He goes for the top rope elbow drop, and you could tell Okada was making more of an effort than the first match because he jumped. Rainmaker pose. He flips off Ospreay, but a John Woo drop kick to Ospreay launches him into the corner. Ospreay fought back with a running shooting star press, but Okada got his knees up and hits his signature drop kick for a 2 count. Okada tried for a leapfrog, but Ospreay put the brakes on and caught him with the Styles Clash for a very close 2 count. That's how he won the first match on the show. Okada responds with the Emerald Flosion and then hits the Rainmaker, how he won the first match of the show. But Ospreay kicks out. The fans are on their feet and they got them the entire rest of this way. Okada is slowly taking his time, waiting for Ospreay to recover. He ducks a wild shot and hits a high angle German suplex. He holds on to Ospreay, goes for another Rainmaker, but Ospreay is able to reverse that into a Spanish fly. Ospreay wants the hidden blade, but Okada hits him with a drop kick, which Ospreay no sells. He hits a hook kick and then tries for another Os cutter, only for Okada to catch him in midair with the drop kick. Amazing sequence. Okada tries for a Rainmaker, but Ospreay is able to duck. He hits a Rainmaker of his own, and then Ospreay hits the Stormbreaker and gets the closest two of the night. The crowd, it blew the roof off of this building. That was a spectacular sequence. Ospreay wanted a Tiger Driver, but Okada flipped out of it into another Rainmaker. With both down, he maintained wrist control. Ospreay fought back with another hook kick. Okada ducked the Rainmaker, ducked the hidden blade, wanted a Rainmaker, but Ospreay flipped over, tried a Stormbreaker, but Okada escaped from that. He got the wrist, hits a Rainmaker, the third of the matchup. Incredible closing sequence. Okada 1, 2, 3. He gets the win in what was an absolutely unbelievable, incredible matchup that should have closed this show because nothing could follow this. Like, Dave Meltzer gave their match at Battle in the Valley 5 stars that I gave 4 3/4 stars. This was miles better than that match. Oh my God. They went out here and delivered a G1 Climax Finals in the final of the Continental Classic. Will Ospreay with the storytelling. Like, that's the thing. People that don't watch Will Ospreay will tell you, oh, he's just a whole bunch of cool moves. No, it's the fact that he can do the cool moves. He can do it at a state-of-the-art fast pace. But it's the storytelling, his selling of the injuries from the first match, the selling of exhaustion that both men had towards the latter half of this matches, and the fact that they sold the exhaustion and then were able to turn up the speed even faster for some of these final sequences. The final sequence and the second to last sequence that ends with the Stormbreaker are some of the most exciting, breathtaking, and unreal wrestling sequences you will see in this business today. Ospreay and Okada are one-of-a-kind opponents to each other. They have nothing short but of a fantastic match every single time out since I've seen them wrestle, especially ever since Ospreay turned on Okada back in 2020. It's been just 5 stars in and out every single time out. This was no different. I gave this match 5+ stars. This was a slight notch above the Fletcher match. I felt like Fletcher match was probably a better overall matchup, but I'm telling you, the last 5 minutes of this matchup is the most exciting and thrilling professional wrestling you will see in this business today. Okada and Ospreay are one of a kind. We finally saw the old Okada, the G1 Okada, the Wrestle Kingdom Okada, the IWGP Heavyweight Champion Okada in this matchup here, and Will Ospreay proving yet again he is the best wrestler in the world with back-to-back 5-star instant classics. Post-match, Okada offers a handshake to Ospreay, who was helped to the back by doctors. They played Okada's music until they cut it, and then Christopher Daniels comes down to the stage. He congratulates Okada for continuing his reign as the Continental Champion. Daniel says he normally would be the one to walk down there and present him with the Continental Championship, but he is no longer an EVP of All Elite Wrestling. But this man is. And hits the music of the former AEW World Champion, Kenny by God Omega. This crowd went nuts. The roof blew off of the additional financial arena. Omega takes the Continental Championship down to the ring. He hands it to Okada, who holds it up in the air, and we get the big stare down. Omega gives a golf clap to Okada for winning the tournament. Tony Schiavone questions how long it will take for Omega to get back into ring shape, ignoring the fact he's wrestling in a week. But AEW basically told you where this is going to go down because they changed the camera view from this to be like, hey guys, so you know, buy your tickets for Texas in July in a stadium. Omega Okada, first time in the USA. That is how you close the goddamn show. If we close the goddamn show with this is a 10 out of 10, a 9.5 out of 10 pay-per-view. But goddamn, what a match. What a moment in the post-match with Omega's return. Sheesh. 5-star post-match, 5+ stars for the match. That's how you cap a pay-per-view. I don't understand. This is not rocket science. J-News, what did you think about Okada and Ospreay and the post-match with Omega's return?
It was one of the first things I texted you last night when the show was over. They should have flip-flopped the semi-main and the main. There's just there to me, the more significant AEW moment is the return of Kenneth Omega. That's the more significant AEW moment. No, and that's not me trying to throw shade at freaking Adam Copeland and guys in FTR. Like, nah, man, everything exists in the same world, but you have to be able to prioritize certain things over others when it comes to the essence of your company at the end of the day. So that's where I'm at with that. From a match standpoint, Will Ospreay, Kazuchika, Okada, they can't do any wrong, man. They just can't do any wrong. And this is partly the reason as to why Tony Khan decided to sign both of these lovely gentlemen at the beginning of 2024. So shouts to Tony Khan for that. Yeah, I said it way earlier in the podcast, man. Like, for all of those Okada non-believers, like, have at it. Go sit down with yourselves, look at yourselves in the mirror, and say to yourselves, I was wrong. I was wrong, and I need to know better now. Because, you know, this is where he excels. He is the best tournament wrestler of all time, but at the same time, he has to have the right dance partner in that ring with him in order to give us the epicness, the scope that these matches have. Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega both are great opponents for Kazuchika Okada at the end of the day. And Okada's drop kick was A1 last night at all from all angles. There was just no doubt about it. And yet again, man, the character works still. Even when he tried to mix it in during the match and stuff like that, it worked and whatnot. And, you know, him being the best tournament wrestler ever, per se, quote unquote. Yeah, man, it's just proof last night. You know what I'm saying? There was just proof last night. So I can't say enough about Okada and Will Ospreay. Some of the best to ever do it. And it's going to be an interesting ride for Okada in 2025, I think, depending as to what they want to do with him and things of that nature. Obviously, we know where we're going towards All In, but outside of that, it'll be interesting as to what they do outside of that with Okada. So, and Will's got a couple of embers in the fire here and there. So we'll keep on developing Will's character on TV and things of that nature. See what kind of alliances he latches on to, if any, and see as to where he goes in 2025. But a terrific match nonetheless. This is what professional wrestling is all about. So hats off to both those gentlemen and that match they had last night. And bring on the cleaner. Bring on the cleaner. That's all I got to say.
What would you give it star rating wise, the match?
Oh man, star rating wise, I don't like to go above and beyond too much. 5 stars is good for me at the end of the day. It's 5 stars is good, man. 5 stars is good.
It's my first 5-star plus matchup that I've seen since Ryan and Swerve in August. That's a while. That's a while for me to not have see 5+ star matches. This was one of them though. Josh, what did you think about Ospreay, Okada, and Omega's return?
Ospreay, Okada, I mean, both guys killed it. You know, Not surprising. I knew they were going to do it. It was just a matter of how they were going to do it, and I thought they did a great job doing it. They told a great story with Ospreay selling his injuries, and that's what I was alluding to earlier, where I was like, they kind of still did him favors because it kind of still makes him look strong because he had to deal with injuries. So if him losing doesn't look as bad because of that aspect. But I thought that the right person won. Which I think Okada was the person I did pick. I was like, I think he was gonna win it, especially this whole idea of like, they did sell the whole the greatest tournament, competitor in like, wrestling history and shit like that. So I thought they did a great job with that. And again, match was great. And then post match, Kenny Omega comes back, and you see how everybody everybody got excited. The crowd went crazy. It legit felt like, I'm like, damn, like, when people talk about game changing things or moments, like that felt different for me, at least. Like seeing Omega again, it felt different because I'm like, damn, he's greatly missed in AEW, and I think that kind of proved it. And then the fact that they had a stare down. Nothing happened. They had a stare down, and it makes you got excited off of that alone. And I thought that was like even great. Like they didn't even need to say nothing. Nothing was said at all. They had a stare down. Nothing was said, and then Kenny walked out. I thought it was great. I thought overall it was like it couldn't have gone better than I expected. I do agree with you guys that maybe this part should have finished the show. If there was a flip-flop, then you're talking about an all-time great show. So I do agree with that aspect. I mean, I don't hate it that much. Like, it's not something I'm like angry about, but I really thought that they were going to finish. I thought they really were going to finish. I thought this was going to be the main event. But it is what it is at this point. They want to make the world title feel important, but when you have the world title in the briefcase, you can't really make it feel important.
I mean, yeah. So just put it on the middle of the show, sir. Just put it on the middle of the show. You're not even showing the title. I'm
sorry, the whole time I was watching the build-up on TV between Dynamite and Collision and the weeks leading up to World's End, my thought process was the C2 final was going to main event the show. That was my thought the whole entire time. I didn't think the Moxley match was going to main event this thing. I thought it should have been semi-main and call it a freaking day at the end of the day. But they decided to go the way they went. Like Josh said, it is what it is. We're going to get to the match in a minute. I have some things to point out about what transpired during the match that kind of were a little wonky, but yeah.
And yes, to correct AEW, it's not 5 major tournament wins for Okada. It's 7 major tournament wins for Kazuchika Okada. Chris Carlton on social media noted that Okada is a 2-time New Japan Cup winner. So AEW, if you want to say 5 major tournament wins for Okada, you have to add the words round robin to the statement to make it true. 5 major round robin tournament wins. Just so we're understood. King Vate or no, Alexander says, I gave you enough that Omega is back and wants Okada, and it will be at All In. I think for now he will most likely be part of the Death Rider story. Hopefully not. I don't think he wants to be a part of the Death Rider story. But speaking of which, we had the main event of the show, the AEW World Championship up for grabs in a 4-way matchup. Jon Moxley defending against Orange Cassidy, Switchblade Jay White, and Hangman Adam Page. Bell sounds, and immediately Page and White start bickering with one another. So Moxley rolls to the outside where Cassidy met him with a dive to kick things off. All 3 of the challengers take turns putting the boots to Moxley against the barricade until Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta appear for like like a minute into the matchup. They bail Moxley out. They brawl with Page and White as Shafir attacks Cassidy in the crowd along with Moxley. Security is finally able to escort Castagnoli and Yuta away as Orange is ringside and distracts Moxley with his hands in his pocket long enough for White and Page to reappear. So all three men give the shield bomb to Moxley, taking him out. But apparently Moxley must have hit his head on like a monitor or something, because he cut himself real good on the back of his head with this power bomb. The truce is over, so Hangman attacks both Orange and Switchblade as it's a three-way back inside the ring with Page getting the upper hand. We see Christian Cage and the Patriarchy watching from a suite in the boxes up in the crowd, but we also see Hook is in another box, keeping his eye on them. You did not need to do any of this. Like literally, you could have just showed Christian in the skybox before the match began. That would have worked better. We didn't need Hook in the other one. Page hit charging boots on Orange and Switchblade against the barricade and sent Orange crashing into the steel steps. Trying a superflex back inside, Cassidy fought back with the Stun Dog Millionaire. White was in. Cassidy nearly hit another one, but White countered with a cutthroat suplex. Pop-up Hurricane Rana on Page, who was sent outside, but Moxley appeared and sent White outside. Orange wound up for an orange punch, but ran right into Moxley, hitting a cutter in midair. The back of Moxley's head at this point, you could see, was busted open bad from the table bump. The crowd reacted big anytime Moxley was in the ring with Hangman Page, so it's a big sign to AEW that out of all the challengers in this match, the one they're into facing Moxley is Hangman. Just saying. They went back and forth until Switchblade and Orange returned. They teased schoolboy attempts until Moxley levels White with a lariat, until Cassidy hits a spinning DDT for a reset. All rise to their feet until Cassidy just collapsed to the floor, leaving Switchblade, Hangman, and Moxley to slug it out. Everyone hits home run shots, leaving Cassidy alone with Moxley. Tried the spinning DDT, but Moxley reversed. Tried the paradigm shift, but Cassidy reversed that into the beach break. The Hangman pulled the referee out, so Orange was not able to get the win. He dropped Orange with a buckshot lariat and then another to Switchblade. Moxley wanted a power driver, but Page dropped him with the dead eye. He wanted a third buckshot lariat, but then Wheeler Yuta returned. He ran distraction briefly, but unsuccessfully. Yuta ate a boot. Page hits the buckshot, but there's no referee. Referee Paul Turner runs down to the ring, but it wasn't in time. Orange rolls up Hangman, but only gets a 2. Hangman then lows bow Orange to take him out of play. White came back. He hits multiple Blade Runners on Orange, on Hangman, then on Moxley. He has the pin. He has the win. 1, 2. Yuta dives in again and hits the referee to break the count. Yuta goes on to the referee. Shafir appears behind White. White spins around and lays her out with the Blade Runner, the biggest pop of the entire matchup. It felt like this match was finally going to get into like a third gear and really get going. But Switchblade turns around. He gets hit with the Psycho knee. Then the Death Rider. 1, 2, 3. Jon Moxley retains the AEW World Championship. The Death Riders then get into the ring post-match. They attack Switchblade Jay White. Yuta launches Bryce out of the ring. They stand over White with a steel chair until FTR's music hit. FTR comes out onto the stage. They stop on the stage and then the lights cut off. When we come back on, the FTR symbol changes into a rated FTR symbol. And out comes the returning Adam Copeland. The crowd is going crazy. He joins Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler. FTR fights off Claudio and Yuta. They hit the Shatter Machine on Yuta. Then in the middle of the ring, we get a Copeland-Moxley stare down. They're left face to face until Moxley swings first. Copeland ducks, hits a spear. We see Christian Cage in the skybox. He's furious. He's leaving with the Patriarchy. Copeland breaks off a piece of the steel chair. He locks Moxley in a crossface with it, completing the set because he has done this move to now Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and the former Dean Ambrose. Echo, Delta, Golf, Echo, Edge. He gets the crossface on all the members of the Shield. Rated FTR is standing tall in the ring. Claudio pulls Moxley to safety. Copeland gets on the mic and calls Moxley a kid, saying that he was started in this business when Moxley was still growing pubic hairs. He says that Rated FTR are going to take everything from them. They still tall. Commentary puts over Fight for the Fallen this Wednesday, the simulcast on Max and TBS, and it's announced by Tony Khan. It will be Copeland and FTR, Rated FTR, versus Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta of the Death Riders this Wednesday on the mother of all simulcasts, Fight for the Fallen, AEW Dynamite. And in another bit of production red herring or production foreshadowing, we were left with the last shot that we see is Copeland looking at Moxley with the AEW Revolution sign in the background. J-News, what did you think about this main event match? Like I said at the top of the show, I think the main event in a vacuum, it was good action. It was kind of fast-paced, a lot of thriller, no filler. So I enjoyed that part of it. It just felt like the worst parts of a 2023 Roman Reigns match or a 2024 Evil title match. It was very much the worst parts of the Bloodline and House of Torture for the Death Riders group, which should not be having signs of the Bloodline and House of Torture this soon into their act. Like, Jesus Christ, did we need them to interfere 4 different times in a 15-minute fucking match? Still, the work of the 4 guys put this over enough that I give it 3.5 stars, but 3.5 stars is by far the worst rating I've given for an AEW pay-per-view main event this year. J-News, what did you give to the World's End main event? What did you think?
Like I said it before, I didn't feel like it should have been the main event. But be it that it was, I remember I commented to you yesterday via text, if they're making this the main event, something big has to come out of this. And this isn't shade. They did something for the immediate, right? Because this is more for Fight for the Fallen than anything else. To your point, they threw the red herring in there for Revolution, and then the last shot being Edge staring down, Edge at Copeland staring down Jon Moxley, and things of that nature. So you set up this match with all these characters, right? 4 men in this match. To begin the match, you have the audience thinking that the AEW title is in this briefcase, right? They then give the briefcase to the timekeeper. Marina Shafir then undoes the handcuff, but yet the handcuff ends up in the middle rope all the way to the side. They forget about the handcuff. It wasn't even used after that fact. I thought someone was going to get handcuffed during the match so that we can play into some heel roll tactic stuff, and that didn't happen. Strike 1.
They've been doing the handcuff thing this whole time.
No, I get that. I'm talking about the use of the handcuff when it got tied to the middle rope, right? They slid it all the way to the side. They didn't handcuff anyone to the middle rope. I thought they were going to use it during the match. It didn't get used. Strike number 1. Strike 2. Tony Khan, I need you to stop having Jay White eat all these fucking pins. I'm tired of it. It's enough. It's enough. Orange Cassidy can eat a pin. I understand Hanger not eating a pin. I get all that. OC is there for that reason. Jay White shouldn't be eating pins in a match like this. Sorry, not sorry. Strike 2. Strike 3. I'm a baseball guy. Strike 3. Baseball. Strike 3. I'm with SP3. Why would you have the Death Riders run interference more than 2 times in a 15-minute match? It doesn't make much sense to me at the end of the day. And the match was short for what it was. I'm like, this abruptly ended. Could it have been because Mox was hurt? Sure. right? But it didn't look that way at the end of the day. It didn't look that way. So it's like, well, what are we doing here? You know, so for me, it fell flat. I thought it was fine. And it set up the match for Fight for the Fallen, really, is really what it did at the end of the day. Where does Hanger go from here? Where does Jay White go from here? Where does OC go from here? Obviously, AEW is trying to get you to view all of their digital stuff or whatever. OC's post-match promo was okay, but we still don't necessarily know what's going to come about of Orange Cassidy. I don't know what the hell AEW is doing with Jay White, to be honest. I don't know at this point. And Hanger's he's on an island, really. Like he can fit wherever he wants to fit, but it's like, where does he fit? You know? So that's where I'm at with this. And I thought that they were going to start steering this Death Rider storyline into a specific direction, but it's like I'm not a fan of this direction. It's really what it is, what it boils down to. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Big Man does. Jay did get ganged up on, and Jay had to win. Like it's Wheeler screws him over. That's how he loses. I also didn't want Jay to take this loss, but I also thought about it in this way. You just had Orange take the loss. You just had Hangman take back-to-back losses on pay-per-view. The only guy who could take the loss here is Jay White. But if your plan is to do Jay White versus Jon Moxley in Australia, then he shouldn't be the one to take the loss here.
Right.
So it works both ways, but I get both decisions, honestly. Josh, what did you think?
For the match, for what it was, like when I'm talking about like the in-ring stuff, it was fine. The interference, yeah, I thought it was kind of like it was overly done. You know, and I get what they were trying to do, but then it's like I didn't really need this to happen, especially in a fatal four-way. It's like, what the fuck, right? It's just a little too much for me. But yeah, I also thought the match was pretty short for what it was. That's why I was kind of surprised of the time that the show finished, because I thought they would probably use more time for that. But you know, obviously they had a set plan because of what ended up happening in the post match. You know, which I thought was pretty cool. It was nice to see Adam Copeland. You know, and him being paired up with FTR, I think kind of makes sense. Because you know they do have FTR and Copeland, they do have a history. They have a real life history. A lot of people might not know. You know, when Copeland was getting back into wrestling, like when they're the ones that actually worked with him. Like he didn't trust somebody else. He worked with FTR for him to get back like in ring shape. So you know, there's history there. So I actually like to pair up, and you know, it was cool seeing Copeland. You know, him seeing being healthy, and then you find out later on, like during the conference, that he was healthy for a while. It was just a matter of, you know, putting this together. And then also because of what happened, I guess, in North Carolina, he had to take care of that first before anything. You know, home life, family comes first before, you know, anything else. So, and that aspect I was happy with more so than like the match itself, seeing Copeland, if I'm just being honest.
What it does is I think that AEW did kind of show what they're probably going to do, because like I said, I think the way they booked the ending is to try to make Jay White a sympathetic figure, that he got screwed over in this matchup. And I think he'll probably win like some type of number one contenders match to get the shot at Grand Slam. But that's just another lame duck challenger of the month, because you just pinned him in this 4-way. So yeah, and then they'll probably do Copeland at Revolution.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that being the thing.
Because I think he's a big enough name, because you're going to want to sell a lot of tickets for that, because that's in Crypto.com arena. That's a 20,000 seater. So they're going to need a big matchup, and Copeland versus Moxley is a first time ever matchup that feels big, but he just doesn't feel as big as Omega versus Okada. So that's why you should have closed with that.
So then I guess I have a question here. So are they going to feed the Christian Cage versus Adam Copeland feud post
Yeah, they
Revolution?
could you can tease well, I don't know about post Revolution. In the lead up to Revolution, you tease that Christian is a part of this. Like, you make him kind of the Spectre. What they've been doing basically in the lead up to this 4-way, I think has been good to kind of keep reminding people that Christian has this title shot. Like when they did the whole big brawl on Rampage, he's in the balcony at Hammerstein watching all of it go down. Like, that type of stuff is nice. And like I said, I don't think that Christian should have not been out here at all. I just didn't like when they showed him in the skybox. I think you show him in the skybox before the participants enter the matchup, and then you could pay it off at the end with his reaction to Copeland returning. That works. But like, yeah, I think that they just are going to tease it in that way. We could have an interaction between them, but I don't think it's something that they're going to make more overt, because we just finished that rivalry in March.
Fair enough.
But let us know what you thought about AEW World End. We're going to wrap things up here for us here. We do have a super chat donation. Thank you so much. Call me Mr. Bonda, who sent us some love. He says, I had goosebumps during this C2 final. These two never disappoint. It's things like this why I'll always be a wrestling fan. 1000% couldn't disagree with you in any way. That C2 final just had my blood pumping, had me on my feet by the time Kenny Omega made his return. But yeah, Mr. Bonda, that C2 final is one of the best AEW matches this year.
Have to agree.
But let us know in the live chat. Final call for super chat donations. We always appreciate the love and support from you guys. Thank you. Call me Mr. Bonda. And of course, sound off in the live chat with your match of the night, your MVP, your LVP, whether you gave the show a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle, and out of 10, what did you give last night's show? For me, Josh and J-News for AEW World End 2024 in 3, 2, 1. Thumbs up across the board from all of us. J-News, out of 10, what did you give the show?
Oh man. The number here, if just for the nitpicking part of it all, I'm giving the show a solid 9. Just because the nitpicking doesn't really, for me, the nitpicking doesn't really do too much. You know, just swapping the matches, certain things within the storytelling of within the match, or whatever the case is, I just be nitpicking at that point. So yeah, solid 9 out of 10 for me. AEW pay-per-views always deliver. And I think there wasn't, for me at least, there wasn't a bad match on the pay-per-view. Stories developed, stories ended. We've got all the post-match stuff that made the other matches later on in the show even more relevant and substantiated and things of that nature. And then now we lead into the mother of all simulcasts on Wednesday to see as to where 2025 takes AEW.
What about you, Josh? Out of 10, what you give the show?
Same. 9 out of 10. I thought all the matches that involved the Continental Classic were all great. You know, Mercedes versus Statlander was also great. There's a lot of good matches in this show, and you know, obviously, like what we said earlier, definitely better than last year's World's End. You know, top to bottom, easily better. But yeah, I give it a solid 9.
I'll be the low man only because, like I said, there were some things that, I was kind of nitpicking, but some things I didn't enjoy fully. Swerve being a part of the post-match with Ricochet, the match placements in general, like not just the main event, but doing a Thunder Rosa versus Mariah May, and then following that up with MVP MJF versus Adam Cole. I don't think either one of the build to those matchups are strong enough to go back to back. So that's bad placement of matches as well. That's why I said I think the main event, if it's in the middle of the show, this show is much better. If you change the main event all the way to the middle of the show after Rosa and Mariah, and we get the big Adam Copeland return in the middle of the show, and you could talk about it, replay it a couple of times at the end of the show or towards the end of the show, and then you end off with Omega at the end, like, I feel like this show is much, much better. So the placement of stuff didn't work. The main event did not work to its best. Adam Copeland coming in as the defender for AEW against John Moxley and the Death Riders when he's only been here for a cup of coffee. That also doesn't work. But when you have a pay-per-view that has Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander, 2 Ospreay 5-star matches, and Okada being Okada again, and Kenny Omega returning, got to be above an 8, so I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10.
That's good.
Josh, what was your MVP for the show?
MVP, Kazuchika Okada, easily.
J-News?
MVP. Why the hell not? He's the one with the 2 5-star matches, so I might as well just give it to Will Ospreay at the end of the day.
Good choice. Good choice there as well. The MVP for the show, I'm going to go co-MVP to Kenny Omega, because he just feels like the main character who's been missing from this show for too long. Adam Copeland, because the double return of Copeland and Omega gives the company a jolt in star power for sure. And then Mercedes Moné and Chris Statlander, because Statlander proving she's the most reliable and workhorse. She's the real ace of this women's division, and Mercedes redeeming herself and getting back her reputation throughout the last month. They got to give it to her. Match of the night, Will Ospreay versus Kazuchika Okada. What a match. J-News.
Yeah, same. Honorable mention to Mercedes and Stat, but yeah, Will versus Okada was it was the match of the night, of the month, maybe of the year, who knows. So yeah.
Josh.
Same. Ospreay versus Okada.
And then LVP for the show, I'm gonna give it to I'm gonna give it to Adam Cole and the Undisputed Kingdom. Josh?
Damn, that's actually a good one, because I was trying to think myself. I'm like, who should I give LVP to? Damn.
I almost gave it to John Moxley and the Death Riders. I'm not going to front. But then I was like, what's worse, John Moxley and the Death Riders or Cole and the Undisputed Kingdom? It's Cole and the Undisputed Kingdom.
I mean, it is worse. Like, yeah, I mean, it's tough. I'm trying to think. I'll say, yeah, I'll go with Adam Cole. Like, because he even lost the match too. So, yeah.
Yeah. I will be the unanimous one to say it's Adam Cole and the Undisputed Kingdom, because they got booed out of the building for the wrong reason. So that's where we're gonna end that.
Now that whole thing was confusing. Like I said earlier, that whole thing was confusing because they like they were cheering for a little bit. Then when Adam Cole used the ring to MJF, they booed. But then when they hugged, they cheered again. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, do these fans know like what they have to do or want to do? Like what?
Cole just confuses them now. Cole is just confusing them because of the booking. But yeah, and not in a good place. Not in a good place right now. But yes, that brings us to a close on AEW World End 2024. Want to thank you all if you are joining us live. Thank you all if you're watching us on demand. Want to thank my esteemed colleagues here, Josh, who usually joins me for these pay-per-view reviews, and J-News usually shows me for the New Japan reviews and previews, but got to thank him because he came through for our preview earlier this week, came through for our review. We got to get you more often on AEW previews, reviews in 2025. But until then, J-News, let everybody know where they can follow you on social media and when they shall see you again.
You guys can follow me on social media on the Twitter machine at JohnLYFNMG. Follow me on the Instagram _JONJOY, and you will see me tomorrow. As a matter of fact, as me, SP3, and the lovely Sanal will be doing the preview for Wrestle Kingdom 19 and Wrestle Dynasty. We'll be on tomorrow in the afternoon for that one, because we got to catch Sanal before she flies off to Japan. So catch me there. Catch me tonight on the Hit the Ropes podcast. Me and the lovely Dolores do our weekly roundup of everything pro wrestling tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, either on my YouTube channel or Dolores' YouTube channel. So look forward to that. And yeah, that is my spiel for the day.
Josh, thank you as always. Let everybody know where they can follow you.
You can follow me, JMPunk321, Twitter and Instagram, and I'll be back next Sunday, right? For THH.
Yes, sir.
Right? We'll be on for next Sunday for THH 310.
Indeed, we will. Our first flagship podcast of 2025. But you got plenty of stuff for you to enjoy in this week. This last week of 2024, first week of 2025, partial week that we got coming up. Like J-News said, we will be live here tomorrow, 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time, with our NJPW Wrestle Kingdom 19/Wrestle Dynasty preview. We got Tuesday, our final Rated Raw review of 2024 for the final Monday Night Raw on the USA Network and cable television. Wednesday, for New Year's Day, we're dropping, I think, at least 2 of our year-end list, our top 10 for the Women's Wrestler of the Year, as well as our top 10 best matches of the year will be dropping. We'll also be dropping our worst matches of the year on New Year's Eve. You got Thursday for AE Ramble. Friday, we'll be dropping our last top 10 list for 2024. And then on Saturday, we're going to be doing a live watch-along for Wrestle Kingdom 19. So, usually it's me, Romeo. So me and Romeo will be here. We'll see who else from the gang wants to join us at 3 a.m. on a Saturday night. And then we got on Sunday, the flagship podcast. And then next Monday, Wrestle Dynasty and Wrestle Kingdom reviews. So we're starting the week and the new year off strong. So join us for that. Follow me on the Twitter machine at TrueHillSP3. Follow the gang, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at TrueHillHeat. Patreon.com/TrueHillHeat. You can go over and enjoy our ROH Final Battle review that is going to be up today over there. So be on the lookout for that. Hit the join button and become a member today for exclusive content as well. But until then, until tomorrow, for our Wrestle Dynasty and Wrestle Kingdom preview, for J-News, for the True Jaw Josh, it is me, your True Heel Phenom, SP3. This has been True Heel Heat's AEW World End 2024 review. We are signing off until next time.